Hey, welcome into Rob Ride's Gen X Pops Culture. Hey, we're live. Tony Stark's going to join me pretty soon whenever he gets here. It's okay that he's not here on time. He's got another live stream that he's on, and he said he'd be here after that, which I'm very thankful to Tony. He's great. He's a brother. He's also got 1,000 subscribers too, so congratulations to both of us. It's just really great. Lombardi, 1969, glad you're here. Welcome. So today, what I'm going to do is I'll show you a couple of my intros just to get us started and kind of kill some time while we're waiting on Tony. But I was going to tell you kind of my pop culture story. Tell you a little bit about me growing up, some of my favorite movies, which you can see some of them right here behind me in posters. Tell you about my experiences with that, what it was like growing up in the 80s, what my impressions are, and why I decided to start a pop culture channel, and how I feel about current pop culture. So it was kind of just a celebration, 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully I can get some watch time so that I can get monetized because I'm not monetized yet. Hey, Suzanne, welcome into the show. Glad you're here. So today's show, and hey, Taylor Swift greater than Disney, Star Wars, and MCU, and Doctor Who. Welcome into the show. Glad you're here. So as I was saying today, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my story. I'm so thankful for 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully I'll get monetized soon. Just wanted to say thank you guys for coming on. And I wanted to share just a little bit about my story, maybe talk a little bit about my pop culture experience and why I decided to establish this channel. Also, maybe talk just a little bit about modern pop culture, even though I don't do as much modern stuff on the channel as I am a guest on some other channels that do that. So, and then I'll answer some of your questions if you have any. So just let me know. Right now, I just want to get started with sharing a couple of intros that I thought were kind of cool that I created. There's some while we're waiting on Stark of Iron. Here's one that I created for the channel. I forgot to resize the logo, but I think it still works. So. I used that as a little short intro, which I thought was kind of cool. Here are a couple of the intros that I had for my last couple of videos. This one's for the Karate Kid. And then this is the most recent one, which I thought is an interesting one. Kind of reminds me of an old VHS tape trying to play it. Yes, Suzanne, Tony Stark is going to make an appearance soon. He'll be here as soon as he's done with his other live stream. I went ahead and went live because I wanted to say hi to my audience and welcome you guys in. And thank you so much for being subscribers. I now have over 1,000, and I'm very thankful and appreciative of all my subscribers. I'm so thankful that you watch my channel, subscribe to my channel. And to get 1,000 is just amazing. And I am so very thankful for that. And today, I just wanted to talk about my pop culture story and answer any questions you guys might have. So I think my real pop culture story starts with, show you these 3 movies right here. The Star Wars trilogy. And as you can see from my setup, there's a rather large TV that I have that I actually use as my second monitor when I'm working. Anyway, it starts with Star Wars, really. That's where kind of my pop culture roots go. That's where my foundation is. When I was a kid, a little kid, I saw Star Wars as a very little kid. My parents thought I was going to be scared of Darth Vader, but I wasn't, and I loved it. Every time it came out, I always wanted to see Star Wars. Agent Pepsi One, welcome. Agent Pepsi One, check your email if you want to jump in here and be on the panel. You're more than welcome to come in. I'd be glad to have you on here. If not, if you want to stay in the background and hang out, that's cool too. But anyway, so to start my story, it started with Star Wars, and I saw it as a really little kid. and I just was on the edge of my seat. I loved every minute of it. When I would stay with my grandparents, I always wanted to watch Star Wars. I always had the toys, and well, my parents thought I would be scared of Darth Vader, Agent Pepsi One, but I wasn't. He's one of my favorite characters, so I thought he was cool. My parents thought I'd be scared of him just because he was big and bulky and had this, extremely deep voice. And I was a young child at the time, so they thought I would get very scared, but I wasn't. And so, anyway, seeing Star Wars, I collected the figures. I've got a younger brother, and we collected Star Wars figures growing up. And we saw all the movies. I remember seeing The Empire Strikes Back for the first time in 1980. I was 3.5 years old. We had good friends, the Jamesons, and I'm not going to go into details of their names just to keep everything private, but their last name was Jameson. Anyway, so their oldest was a couple years older than me, and their youngest was the same age as my younger brother. I remember we went and saw the premiere of The Empire Strikes Back when it came out, and the coolest thing about it was they had somebody dressed as Darth Vader and somebody dressed as Boba Fett at the theater for the premiere. It was awesome. And then to go and see the movie and the big reveal in the movie with Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker just blew my mind as a young kid. It was so cool. Empire is my favorite movie of all time. I love that movie. Whenever it's on, it's a stop down for me. I'm sad about your internet connection, Agent Pepsi One. That's a bummer. Oh man. Thank you, Agent Pepsi One. I appreciate the congratulations. But anyway, I saw Empire Strikes Back when I was about 3.5 years old. That kind of dates me, so there you go. Anyway, it was great. It was a great experience. One of the things that we always looked to the stars, we were wondering, is Darth Vader up there somewhere in some unknown galaxy for real, which was cool. But then the Empire Strikes Back toy line came out. It was pretty awesome. Of course, we got Yoda and we had all the figures. I never had an AT-AT or a Scout Walker. I had friends that had those. I thought those were the coolest. I had the best Christmas gift of all, though, when I was a kid, though. I got the Millennium Falcon one Christmas, and it was incredible. That thing was so big for a little kid. It was one of the most amazing toys that I've ever had, and it was so much fun to play with all my action figures. The cool thing is that the landing gear, you're supposed to be able to hold the landing gear and put it on your hand, but I was a little bit younger and a little bit smaller then, and I had to hold it with two hands and fly it around, but it was so cool. It was one of my favorite toys of all time that I ever had. So really, I was influenced by that. And then in 1983, when I was a little bit older, going to see Jedi in the movie theater was an awesome experience. I didn't care as much for the Ewoks, but I loved Luke Skywalker. I loved the new black robes that he had for Jedi. I dug the green lightsaber. I thought that was really cool. I was excited to find out what would happen to Han Solo. Would they be able to save him? Who on earth is Jabba the Hutt? Because at that time, the special editions hadn't shown Jabba the Hutt, so we got to see Jabba the Hutt the first time. And what would happen? And so Star Wars just was this cultural phenomenon, and it really had a huge effect on me in my childhood. One of the things that I always wanted was one of those old lightsabers, which is it was just a piece of plastic and a tubing that was in different colors. And if you whacked it around, it would with the wind whistle, it would make noises. It didn't have any electronics or anything in it, but I never got one as a kid, but I always played with them when I was in the stores. So continuing my pop culture, I'm a child of the 80s. So I grew up with all your toy lines. We had a ton of He-Man stuff. We had, Castle Grayskull and all the He-Man figures. G.I. Joe was a huge aspect of my childhood growing up. I had a whole bunch of figures with me and my brother. And then, of course, Transformers. Those were the big three that we really had as kids. As far as movies that were concerned, oh, my goodness. You had the Ghostbusters movies. You had the Indiana Jones trilogy. You had the Back to the Future trilogy. Those were the movies of my childhood that I grew up watching and loving, seeing in a theater, and just having a blast talking about playing with some of the toys that came with some of those things, but also seeing those movies over and over on cable and on VHS. They were some of my favorite movies and some of my favorite just forms of imagination. I had a very active imagination as a kid, and I would make up stories with Indiana Jones or Marty McFly or my Star Wars characters or the Ghostbusters. And that's what I loved about these movies, because they were great stories, great character-driven stories, and they stirred my young imagination, and it was just fantastic. Agent Pepsi One, let's see. I must have been 6 or 7. I had the Princess Leia costume for Halloween. My sister went as a vampire. My mother even did my hair in the side buns. Oh, wow. That's awesome, Agent Pepsi One. I hope you have pictures from your childhood of that. Yes. Halloween was big as a kid because we had all these pop culture things that we could dress up as. Yes, dressing up as He-Man and Skeletor, my brother and I, dressing up in Star Wars costumes, dressing up in Indiana Jones costumes, dressing up as the Ghostbusters. All these different icons of pop culture made Halloween as a kid, along with the candy, that much more fun. Agent Pepsi One, if you can find that picture, I'd love to see it. That'd be awesome. It was just a wonderful time and a wonderful childhood that I had with some of these incredible movies. There were so many wonderful movies that I love and just had fun watching. And, the thing about it is, in the 80s growing up, you went to see a movie and you were hooked on an adventure. You got involved with the characters. You had a good time. You had a great experience. It was more than just a movie on the screen. It was your imagination and fun. You wanted to be Indiana Jones. You wanted to go on that adventure. You wanted to go into the DeLorean with Marty McFly and travel through time. That's what made it fun. That's what made it so enjoyable. The imagination that it spurred in me. The playability as a kid with a lot of these toys that were referenced from movies and TV shows stirred everything up. This is before we had the internet. This is before we had cell phones. This is before we were, really, our imagination was kind of taken into a different direction with all the technology. We had to use our imagination with our toys, with our minds, with our thoughts, with the stories we could tell. And that's what was so great about it. Let me get into a couple other things about my life in that. Not only did I mention the cartoon shows that I watched as a kid, but there were a lot of great TV shows. I have to admit that even though I was young, I still got a laugh out of, the big Thursday night lineup. So I know Bill Cosby in all his legal suits, but back then Bill Cosby was a big deal. And the Cosby Show was just a hilarious, lot of fun that even as a kid I could relate to. Then you had the fantastic Family Ties, which I did an episode on Family Ties. What a series. It really kicked off Michael J. Fox's career and led him to be able to do both Back to the Future and Teen Wolf during that time period. So great. Even though I didn't understand all the comedy, you had Cheers and Night Court, which were more adult-centric. I didn't get all the jokes, but even those shows were great. You had good characters with zany plots and fun things that I could relate to. So those were great. You had shows that were really awesome and really cool, like the A-Team. The A-Team was such an incredible show. And we got the figures. We had the figures of all the A-Team. And they came with all kinds of interesting weapons. I don't think they came with a van that was big enough for those figures. Pardon me. Sorry about that. But it was so cool to see them. Dukes of Hazzard. What a great show we had watching that. And we had figures for that. And we had a General Lee that we could play with. I remember the other aspect of my pop culture and childhood growing up is even though we would go to some of these fast food restaurants where the food wasn't exactly the healthiest, they had playgrounds, and we'd meet other kids that we didn't even know, some that we did know, but a lot of them that we didn't know. We would play in that playground and pretend we were Dukes of Hazzard. We pretend we were different things. Lombardi, 1969, Blue Thunder and Airwolf. Yes. Even though it was rated R, Blue Thunder is an amazing movie. I loved it. And Airwolf, what a great TV show. And then you had the toy helicopters that you would put on the string, and you pull the string and it'd fly up. Such a cool time to be a child and have some of those great toys. Agent Pepsi One, you're telling me you got an amazing toy at a thrift store? The only thrift store. What'd you get, Agent Pepsi One? Is it a toy from the 80s that I might be familiar with? Tell me in the comments. But yeah, I mean, you had some of those great shows. Another TV show that's still one of my favorites is Moonlighting, especially the first 3 seasons with Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd. Still can't believe that my parents let me sneak and watch some of it, but it was such a funny show, even though I didn't get all the jokes because I was a little bit too young for some of them. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun. Let's see. Texas Instruments, Little Professor in a sealed box. That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, Texas Instruments had a couple of toys. I think T.I. did Etch-a-Sketch, if I'm not mistaken, which I never was that great because I'm not as artistic. But Etch-a-Sketch, I had friends who could do Etch-a-Sketch and do different spirals and different things with that thing. Oh my gosh, what an amazing toy. Of course, you had Light Bright and a couple other things where people got really super creative, more creative than I could be with some of those toys. But it was a great time for television, a great time for movies, a great time for toys, just a wonderful time to grow up. And you get in the 90s and some great movies that came out with your evolutionary stuff like Jurassic Park. You had the birth of kind of some CGI effects that came out in the late 80s, where you have movies like The Abyss. And then, of course, in early 90s, Terminator 2, which that was fun. I did see the original Terminator as a kid. Even though it was rated R, we had cable and my parents let me watch it. And oh my gosh, I was blown away and kind of scared. And when Terminator 2 came out, that was an awesome movie. That was actually rated PG-13. But I remember going to that movie and being blown away by the new special effects and the CGI with the liquid metal Terminator. It was just fantastic and interesting. As I was growing up, all these developments were coming out. And then, you know, as I got older, getting back to a little bit of Star Wars, we had the original trilogy. We had some of the Ewok movies, and they were okay. We had the Droid show. We had C-3PO's the cereal, which yet another marketing tool that was used with kids was, hey, our cereal would have little toys for movies. The fast food joints would have the cups. And I wish I still had my Star Wars cups. I don't have the Star Wars cups. I do have a Miss Piggy Great Muppet Caper cup. Hang on, I'll go grab that. Let me show you. Oh, a Stark Raid is coming. All right, yay. So here we go. So like McDonald's or Burger King, they would sponsor movies and they would come out with these glasses. So you had the Great Muppet Caper glass, and now some of these are worth quite a bit of money. But yeah, of course, that was McDonald's. Burger King, I think, did the glasses for Empire Strikes Back, and I don't know if they did Star Wars. Here's the other one, the Happiness Hotel bus. So like I said, you had all these great movies, TV shows, and you had a lot of playability. I mean, you had these glasses that we got that were marketing that were so great and a lot of fun. The other aspect was you had little toys that McDonald's would have. But I mean, to be honest, hey, Lemon Pie, welcome. So to be honest, the greatest thing about it was just to play with other kids and use our imagination. We would use our Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man toys, and make up our own adventure stories. It just was awesome. Oh, yeah, Lombardi, 1969. Yes, McDonald's did the Star Trek movie with the toys as well. Yes, I remember that. So 1979, when they came out around the time my little brother was born, was when the Star Trek motion picture came out. We actually had the record for the original motion picture, and on the back of the record was so cool because it had all the different species of aliens that they had in the movie, or at least were supposed to have. Some of that movie got cut out. But yeah, the record and the soundtrack was amazing. And I'm going to put these up real quick so I don't accidentally break them. One thing you don't want is glass. So yeah, like I mentioned, you had all these different fast food restaurants that had toys and little trinkets like glasses. And we would get them and we'd play with them, but we'd also play on the playgrounds and burn off probably most of all the bad fast food that we used to eat. But we would use our imagination to pretend we were, characters from Star Trek, characters from Star Wars, characters from G.I. Joe, characters from He-Man, characters from Transformers, Dukes of Hazzard, A-Team, Airwolf, all of those. And that's what made it so much fun. That's why it was so great growing up in the time that I grew up, because we used our imagination and we had toys and other things that would enhance that. So, Big Jim action figure. Yeah, those were in the 70s, a little bit before my time. So, hey, welcome, Stark of Iron.
Oh, Lo, it's almost as if we're having 1,000 subscriber celebrations back to back.
Yes. And hey, Richard Spade, glad you're here. Welcome.
Yep, I'm bringing the crew. I just wrapped up my Fallout show, so you're having a Stark Tirade.
Thank you so much, Tony.
No problem.
So,
thank you Tony, for helping out.
Yeah, thank you to all my guests for being here on my channel, and thanking my subscribers. And I'm just telling them about my journey through pop culture and talking about my childhood in the 80s, about all the wonderful movies, TV shows, toys, just all the fun we used to have back in the day with everything that was going on and all the things that we would do. And really the key to back then was you had toys, you had movies, you had all these things, but the key to it was they inspired our imagination. It was more than just playing a video game on a console or something with today where they've got everything that's technology based. We had to use our imagination to create our own stories and our own thoughts and our own play patterns. And so that's what I was talking about, how I grew up with it. And basically, it's the love of all these things that made me want to start my channel. The love of these wonderful movies that I saw as a kid. I talked about the Star Wars trilogy, the Indiana Jones movies, Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, Terminator, all these great movies, the TV shows that I saw in the 80s. And, the toys that came with a lot of the TV shows and all that, and the different things that we would have. And not to mention, I would be remiss if I didn't mention music had a big impact on my life too. The music in the 80s, they bring back wonderful memories. I love a lot of bands from the 80s and songs from the 80s, one-hit wonders, and everything from back then. So they bring up some of my memories. Tony, I know you're a little bit younger than me, but what are some of your memories from the 80s and 90s growing up?
Fun fact, I live out in the middle of the holler. All right. I live out here in Kentucky. And so we're by default about 10 years behind everybody else. So despite being slightly younger, I got to enjoy a lot of the same stuff that you did by default. And so, I'd say Transformers was a big entry point for me. Masters of the Universe, Thundar the Barbarian, as far as cartoons are concerned.
Oh, yeah.
Although, then of course you had the early Disney stuff, like I liked Goof Troop, I liked DuckTales Classic. There was a time in my life where I could quote the DuckTales movie word for word.
Oh yeah, that was a fun movie.
That was, yes, Genie, let us go home in our new home.
Yep.
And it's just like, as I grew older and got to see a transition, I stopped watching cartoons right around the cartoon era. Besides a few, Toonami, there was the Toonami After Dark and Adult Swim, which got me into voice impersonations. First being Beavis and Butthead from MTV, and just going forward from there. That's what got me into arguing with myself a lot. But just as far as toys are concerned, I had the vinyl zip up for my Masters of the Universe figures with the Vox.
Oh, cool! Kind of zip up.
Yeah, I got that one, and of course, I still got my old Grayskull, Snake Mountain. I want to take a crack at getting a G.I. Joe aircraft carrier and converting it into a Titan Transformer.
Oh wow, that'd be awesome.
But that's like a dream of mine to do. That's not something that's going to happen overnight, given my current state of unemployment.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, as we grew up from our young days, we attach ourselves to things. We imprint ourselves onto things, much like your pets imprint onto you, and it becomes intrinsic to your very being. And so, for the last decade and some change, we've been repeatedly tugged at. And it's like whenever you get like a new Velcro strap, and you close it for the first time, and then peel it off, it has the most resistance. But over time, as you close that Velcro strap and reopen it and close it and reopen it, close it and reopen it, it gets loose and loose and loose. Lint gets in there, it gets dirty, it becomes less efficient. People are being pulled away from the things that they love so much now that there's some people out there that are just throwing up their hands and saying, screw it. You know what? I'm done. Leave me alone.
Oh, yeah.
I should have gotten shoes with tie laces anyway. And it's just like that's the state of what we're in now. We're being pulled away from the things we love by force.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the problem. That's the problem, because right now the world is on a downward spiral into the flusher. And we kind of sort of want to be kids again, because nostalgia is a coping mechanism, as is humor and other things. We're trying to cope with the terrible things that are going on right now. And so when they're going after the one thing that we cope with the most, people wonder why depression's up in the nation. People wonder why, things are so dismal. McDonald's, right? Like, you were a kid and how vibrant and colorful it was. Look at a McDonald's now. It looks like just a brick.
Remember, Tony, the old commercials, remember?
Yeah.
Ronald McDonald, the Fry Guys, the Hamburglar, Grimace.
Mayor McCheese.
Yeah, all of them representing different items on the menu. The McNuggets.
Yeah.
They were fun. McDonald's was more than just fast food. It was fun. And really for kids, it was all about not just going there and getting a hamburger or something, but, parents took their kids to McDonald's back in the day when I was a kid, because they could sit down and hang out and have an adult conversation while we were playing on the playground for like 30, 40 minutes, burning off all the fast food that we just ate. So it was great. But you're getting into a little bit, why I started my channel. It's because I wanted to remind people of the good times, of the great movies that we loved, of the great music that we loved,
absolutely,
of the great TV shows that are out there. And that's what this channel is all about. It's all about, reminding people of the good times, the great things that we had, the wonderful things that we enjoyed as kids growing up in this generation, or some people were a little bit older, were a little bit older than me, or were adults back then, but still we had some great stuff. And what I want to do is remind them of those things and maybe encourage younger generations to go back and watch some of those programs, watch some of the things that we had and learn from that. Want to say hi to a few people that popped in. Sean Carter, welcome. Glad you're here. Angie Derivative Jill, thanks for being here. Glad you're here as well. Thank you guys for coming on. I'm just talking a little bit about my story of pop culture and why I started my channel, and thanking all my wonderful 1K subscribers. This is great. But yeah, that's a whole reason for that. But yeah, we take a little thing like McDonald's, and nowadays you don't see those commercials. Obviously, there's concern that you're marketing to kids with fast food, but why are we so concerned with fast food? Wouldn't that be up to the parents anyway? I don't know. It's one of those things,
Yeah, it's unfortunate, because we live in a world now where accountability is past people are passing the buck of accountability to people that don't need to moderate or monitor it. Our children are put in positions now more than ever by administrations and by, society as a whole, obligations, taboos, etc., instead of where it should be, which is with the parents.
Oh, gosh.
That is one of the worst things.
So Anti-Derivative Jill,
yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Tony. Anti-Derivative Jill is answering some of our questions because she has kids. She says, well, not only are there no commercials, but the playgrounds are gone. They have a stupid tablet games, which is the fun is gone. She has to get the food herself and take it to a playground herself.
Oh, yeah. Hail to Andy Masterson. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, glad you're here, Andy. Welcome. The figure hasn't arrived yet. Andy's sending me a figure, which I was hoping to do an unboxing, but alas, the mail has delayed it.
We got to see a little bit of it.
Oh, well, we'll I'll see it. I can't wait to unbox it. If not, I'll see if Doomcock will let me unbox it on Wednesday. But I can't wait for that figure. And Andy Masterson is just an amazing artist and creative. See, that's the other thing is like you've got people like Andy Masterson that create some of the art of our childhood. He takes figures and makes figures and puts them in clothing and stuff that remind us of our childhood and remind us of all these wonderful, great pop culture icons. And that's what makes it great. That's what makes it fun. That's what we miss. And that's what's missing today. Where's the fun? And my channel is just trying to recapture the fun and remind everybody of the fun. So that's why I've been doing what I've been doing. And I've made a couple of format changes as we've gone to really engage the audience a little bit more. I think it works a little bit better, Tony. I don't know if you want to give your opinion, but like instead of going into all the facts, I just tell people why I love the movie and add some facts and make it a little bit shorter videos. Thoughts on that?
Well, as somebody who's just getting into making videos myself, I'm also a bumblebee bouncing around in the living room trying to find the window to get out.
Yeah.
So take my opinion as an opinion that is still very unrefined and educated, but unrefined. I would say that one of the things about YouTube is it's all about you. I know that that doesn't mark for much for a lot of people nowadays, but people are going to be there for you. People are going to watch you for you. They're going to listen to you for you, and over time you will grow organically. It took me 3 years to get to 1K.
Oh wow.
3 years. We're growing together, as PJ from Orville Nation likes to say. We grow together. We're all learning as we go, and we get better little by little every day. And whatever you feel the most comfortable with, if you want to keep it loose and not as factual, you can. depending on how you want to write your script. If you want to like with my Deadpool review, I laced the plot part of it with just a bunch of like references and jokes to keep it fun as I was dropping the plot, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be like my format, to where it's still loose but informative. Infotainment is a very hard beast to wrangle. And I got a lot of good people behind me that'll give me advice here and there, and feel free to do so. I'm still very much a tenderfoot. I'll be a tenderfoot after 5 years of doing this. We're all greenhorn. We're all a little wet behind the ears.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, keep doing what you're doing. You wouldn't be at 1,000 if you weren't doing something right.
Thank you. Thank you for the encouragement, Tony.
Yeah.
Hey, all right. So, Tony, you mentioned a couple of the toys. You said that you were trying to get a USS Flag to try and turn it into a Titan. Tell me more about that. What are your thoughts? You're talking about 80s toys. And
I'm
80s.
inspired by the G.I. Joe and Transformers crossovers before IDW went south.
Like the new Triple T tank that turns into.
Yeah. So, whenever I saw that, I was just like, this would be nice because, Autobots were working with the Joes. Cobra was, for lack of the better word, being suckered by the Decepticons to be pawns. And that was a fun storyline. And, a lot of people don't know this, but when Transformers started to go the way of the woke, when the Windblade crap was happening, when JJ was like, you know what, screw you guys, I'm going to write my own little woke insert. We're just going to anything past All Hail Megatron is garbage. Okay, let's just throw that out there right now. All Hail Megatron.
I'll show you.
Oh yeah. So after All Hail Megatron, right, is garbage. It became woke. That was the first instance that I had a sour taste in my mouth. I think it was like 2016, 2015. I was just like, what's going on here? Why is she slicing Menasor in half with a freaking sword? I thought combiners were supposed to be 5 times as strong as a regular Cybertronian, and Menasor was unhinged. The Stunticons were all unhinged. And she just flies up there, takes one good clean swipe, and Menasor is cut in half. I'm like, okay. Something's not adding up here.
All right. So I don't have All Hail Megatron. I've got Megatron Origins.
There you go. That's also a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, where I kind of stopped after that. But I mean, so did you know there is a Transformer that turns into an aircraft carrier?
It's an Autobot, ain't it?
Broadside, yeah.
Yeah, Broadside. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Transformers, growing up, it was an incredible show. Now, I will do probably a whole week's worth of Transformers coming up in another week or so as it celebrates 40 years.
Yeah,
give you my favorite episodes from each season. But Transformers, the movie was, back in 1986. I don't know if you remember it or remember your first impression when you first saw it.
I have summoned you for a purpose.
Exactly. So I'll tell a little story here about it. So one of the big things that was with movies was movie soundtracks. So back in the day, you would have songs from movies come out on MTV and VH1 months, weeks before the movie, and they served as like mini trailers for movies. So the cool thing about watching these videos is you would see part of the movie coming up and you got you all excited and got you ready to go see the movie. Well, it hit number 1 for 1 week. The Touch on like one of the video channels. I don't know if it was MTV.
Dan Bush.
Yeah. So that came out like a couple months before the Transformers movie, which I think it came out this week, 38 years ago in 1986. So we were all amped up with that. The other thing that happened before the movie actually came out is the soundtrack was released in stores. So a friend of mine got the record and played it, and we saw everything, and we saw the spoiler because there's a musical tune called The Death of Optimus Prime.
Mm-hmm.
So I was one of the unique ones that, because we had all that, we went into the movie kind of realizing that what was going to happen with Prime.
Yeah.
So I know it upset a lot of kids my age. A lot of people were still sad about it. The thing that I didn't know about was Hot Rod, that he was going to become Rodimus Prime, and then
Right.
Megatron was going to turn into Galvatron. Hey, Bobby, glad you're here. Rancor Steve, welcome in.
Yeah. Hail Rancor Steve. Hail
Yes.
Bobby.
So I didn't know that was going to happen. We thought they were separate characters because they also had the toys and the toy commercials coming out before the movie, which I felt if they would have moved the movie up instead of making it August right before we had to go back to school, they would have made it in June and then done the toys after the movie. I think the movie would have had a lot more buzz. But the thing about the movie was that it upset some kids with the original Transformers dying, because that movie just, I mean, you saw stuff that you never saw in the cartoons, like everybody dying, which made it
Right.
really cool in a way. But, you know, they eradicated a whole toy line, which was just incredible for that time, because we had this emotional attachment to some of these characters, having been through a couple of years of playing with their toys and watching them on our TVs. So it was really big and really interesting to see that. It didn't, like I said, I went in with the expectation because we got the soundtrack a couple of days before it, so we kind of knew what was going on and we were kind of prepared for it. But it was just this cool rock and roll adventure. What was your first reaction when you saw Transformers movie? Did you?
I will. As I had just posted in the chat, I'll just say this. As a Decepticon, I levy no comment to the death of the last Prime. Hashtag Iacon burned for a reason.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Okay, I do ally myself with the Decepticons. So when all the other guys were crying, all the other kids crying in the theater, you know, here I was going, about damn time. Like, I was that kid.
So you didn't cry over Starscream dying?
Oh yeah, that was even funnier. It's like,
Coronation. I call it bad comedy.
Megatron, is that you?
Here's a hint.
Yeah, that
Right
was
through
really
it.
cool.
Yeah. And the animation quality for that film was top notch. Like,
Oh yeah.
the way they all had that chrome sheen, like they put
Mhm.
so much detail and shading into even the backdrops. Like when you see the very beginning, when Unicron's just floating in between that binary system and just coasting along and like taking out like an outpost moon and devouring it, you know, like that was just too cool. Everything was cool about that film. Unicron was awesome until they ruined him. You know, it was just an all-star thing. The way that Megatron was reformatted, and you got Leonard Nimoy, Spock,
Yeah.
voicing. You know, you got somebody who's known for playing a monotone character of logic and reason into a man who's literally got two personalities in his head. One being the loyalty to Unicron, and the other one being Megatron's own ambition.
Oh
And,
yeah.
yeah. And so, you know, there you can tell that just subtleties as he was. It's like, I have the Matrix now. You can't stop me. And Unicron's just like, oh yes, I can. That was really, really cool. Like, it was just, that whole film was great. You know, Spike was annoying as ever. Kittens, honeys.
Well, you also
I'll
had
be right
other famous actors in there. Robert Stack was Ultra Magnus. You had the bad boy of the 80s as Hot Rod. He's Judd Nelson is Hot Rod.
Judd Nelson, yeah.
Yes. You had Eric Idle playing Wreck-Gar. You had the guy that talks really fast as Blur, who you always
Yeah.
saw in
Motormouth Joe, I think, was
Motormouth Joe.
Yeah.
So that made it even more fun. You had all these great guys and these voices and these characters, and it was cool to have them do that. And then you get into the season 3, and season 3, we'll talk about it coming up in a couple weeks. Season 3 was interesting, a bridge from the movie to the cartoon show. You still wonder what happened to a few characters, and they actually showed some of those characters in that show in season 3, which kind of helped out. So, yes, Richard Spake, Weird Al, Dare to Be Stupid.
Dare to be stupid.
Yes, which was fitting for the Junkions. I mean, awesome.
That's because all they do is talk in TV.
Yes. So, you know, Transformers, an incredible part of our childhood. I was excited when Michael Bay was bringing it back, but I was disappointed with just a little bit of the look and the storyline that they had for it. I thought they could have done a whole lot more.
Oh, don't get me started on the
Yeah.
Transformers movie franchise. We'll be here
Yeah.
for another hour.
Now the Bumblebee one was okay. I thought it was a little bit better, but still, I don't think it's there yet. The most recent live action movie was okay. I don't know if it's there where I would love to see it. And then the new movie that's coming out, it looks like you're trying to capture the kid audience, which is interesting. I don't know. For me, as kind of a purist, I think it's going to violate a little bit of Canyon. We'll see. I don't know if it's really aimed at me. It's aimed at getting kids back into Transformers, which I hope they could do. But, I always, as a kid, I love the Combiners. Those were my favorites.
Oh,
And,
what's your favorite Gestalt?
I don't know. I mean, I'm partial to Aerial Bots because we had the whole set. I had
the Seeker and me cringes, but go on.
yeah, I had the Aerobots, but I didn't think Superion was that great a figure because I couldn't get him to stand up very well. Love Metasaur, but you know what?
Devastator for the win.
I love Devastator, but we broke Hook's foot really quick. So that's the only problem with that. And he would fall apart a little bit. He was a little bit flimsy.
But I got the Toby Toy Japanese remolds, the re-release that came out. And they fixed that joint in Hook, and thank God. Thank God.
It's like his foot, you had to open it up and slide it over, and it was so easy to break.
Yeah.
And then but the one that I always liked, I liked Abominus with the Terracons.
Abominus?
Yeah, I liked Abominus. He was pretty, because like the Terracons were like, you had 2 dragons, and then you had these weird creatures. You had one that was a flying vulture-like creature, a sea creature, and then this just menacing weird creature monster character. And I always thought they were just kind of cool designs. They were Decepticon monsters. So I always liked him. I always thought he was kind of cool. Of course, Predaking was awesome.
Predaking was epic.
Yeah, he was a little bigger. So, and I have several of them. The toys. I got into a little bit of the Combiner Wars because it reminded me of my childhood. Now, they aren't that great compared to the Masterpiece. I've got some of the Masterpiece ones, and they're far better.
Yes, they are.
Transformers, and they're cool, but it was just a fun childhood because what we would do with Transformers is we would get them out and we'd play with them outside, and we'd set up different bases and then have little battles with them. And it was so much fun. Them and G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe, we'd play outside, and we'd spend hours setting everything up and then 30 minutes playing it. Or, hey, mom's calling us all into dinner. We have to clean up. That's what would happen with those toys. And our imaginations just went wild. Let me shift gears to G.I. Joe and tell you a fun story about G.I. Joe.
You're right on.
Sometimes when it would rain, we'd play at one of my friend's house. He had a den that was kind of a side room that had you could close the door. And one side of the den he'd set up, and we'd set up, and we'd pick figures and pick vehicles. And we'd set up bases, and then we'd play. And it was fun. And then when he'd get bored, he'd say, "Oh, this guy's going on a mission." And he'd take him out of the room, and then he'd say, "Oh, I detonated a nuclear weapon that destroyed everybody else, but I win because my guy's still alive." Yeah, fun. But me and my other friend, who's a friend of my brother's and I's, he and I devised a plan for this. So what we did was, do you remember the Cobra Mamba? The double thing. So what we did was we hit a Cobra Mamba and characters inside the Cobra Mamba outside. So outside his den was they had a wet bar area that led into the living room, and we hit it in the wet bar area. And so when he did his little thing, "Oh, my man's going on a mission," we say, "Okay, your man's dead. We just won because we got Cobra Mamba sitting out there waiting for him, and there's no way he's going to take it out by himself." So that was the one time that we won. He was a little bit older, and what he would do is he'd set up little radar techniques and all this other stuff. But it was a lot of fun just playing G.I. Joe and playing with those toys. The other thing that we would do is he had the killer whale, which I
Oh, the big old hovercraft.
the
Yeah.
hovercraft. So he
Yeah.
took off all the missiles and everything, and it actually floated in the pool, which is another thing about the GI Joe toys that were cool. They actually float in the water, except the USS Flag because it was not built that way.
No.
But still, he had it, and what we did was we took off all the missiles and all the other stuff that would come apart, and we would jump off the diving board to try and sink it.
So you didn't break the
So
bits.
that was
That's fun. That sounds
Yeah.
like, I can't help but think of like that big pool from Pee Wee's Playhouse that Francis is in with all the model ships, and he's pretending to be like this big
Oh, yeah.
kraken going. "Rah!"
Yes. So, but that's what made it fun. You had all these toys, and a lot of these toys
Yeah.
related to our TV shows and movies that stirred our imagination. It wasn't all this stuff that's online that we have today. It was our imagination, our
Yeah.
playability. And, that's what I think is missing today. The fun, the imagination.
Well, that's one thing that I'm doing with my Raising Timmy series is I'm playing with my toys. I'm ultimately playing with my toys and filming them into a story. And voice acting, scripting, shooting, all that.
That's
to bring
awesome.
that back because what else am I going to do right now? Ever since you pawned that kid off on me, he's been a handful.
Hey, I've got two of those little creatures.
Mhm.
But anyway, yeah. So the toys, the other aspects, the shows. So I talked a little bit about some of the movies that inspired me as a kid. What films have inspired you when you were growing up? Which ones did you gravitate towards?
Films.
Yeah.
I particularly liked The Highlander. I thought that, becoming the king of the hill and becoming a champion, against adversity with people that are just as strong as you was really awesome.
Mhm.
I liked the old Bond films. I mean, that's
Oh,
what got
yeah.
me into like some of like the gadgetry and the technology. I'm a big techie. I'm an inventor. I like to build stuff. At least I was when I was a kid. I would build stuff, models and stuff. Now I just build Stark stuff right now.
Yeah.
But those all sparked.
Yeah.
Just
let's
the
talk
wider
about-
aspect of the universe. When I saw the DeLorean take off at the end of Back to the Future
Mhm.
for the first time, the first thing that was my moment that I said, I want to get into science. I want to put a car in the air.
Yes, and I think Agent Pepsi 1 mentioned that some of the movies in the sci-fi inspired scientists to
Mhm.
make some of the stuff we have today. Very true. But let's go back real quick. I want to focus in on a couple of the things you said, which is really cool. Yes, the Highlander, who's king of the mountain, and one of the things that we would do as kids, if you didn't have a play sword, you took the broom handle off the broom and you used the broom, and then used the
Mhm.
trash can lid as
The
a
shield.
shield, and you played that
Yep.
way.
Yeah.
Then the other aspect of that movie that we can't leave off is the amazing soundtrack by Queen.
Yeah.
Oh
Queen's
my
amazing.
goodness. Oh my goodness, Freddie Mercury with his pipes. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that we lost him to such an awful virus.
Speaking
But-
of Freddie, did you like his whenever he released his like single stuff?
I don't remember
Like
a lot of his single
Mr.
stuff.
Badman was, Mr. Bad
Yeah.
Guy was, yeah.
I think I remember some of that, but it
Yeah.
was so late in his career that
Mm.
I love his stuff with Queen. And
Mhm.
soundtrack to Highlander, oh my gosh, amazing. Who Wants to Live Forever? What a beautiful song. And then just the opening to Highlander. Also,
Princes of the Universe.
Princes of the Universe. It's just incredible. Which led into the Highlander TV show, which is an incredible show. But
Mhm.
the Highlander, what a great movie. Now, of course, remember, folks, there is no Highlander 2. That doesn't exist.
That's a mandala effect that we're
Yeah,
all
mandala
trying to
effect, we're not
rectify.
saying-
Okay, it's up there with "No, I Am Your Father," Nelson Mandela dying in jail, and the Bernstein Bears being spelled with an A. These things do not exist.
Yep.
They don't exist.
So you've got that. I mean, the other Highlander film that I'll acknowledge that I thought was good was when you combined the TV show with Christopher Lambert's. That was an okay movie. So I'll acknowledge that. But the original Highlander, what an amazing film. I mean, that's pop culture right there, folks. You combine great soundtrack with great movie. That summed up a lot of the 80s and a lot of the soundtracks.
Oh, God.
So you mentioned other tech type stuff. I mean, it was phenomenal how much things changed as we got into the computer age and as we grew from like the 80s to the 90s to the aughts. Just how much technology grew. You talk about the DeLorean flying. That was so cool at the end of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. And then it was a joke. It was never supposed to be a Back to the
meant
Future.
to be a bit. It was meant to be a bit. Yeah.
Meant to be a bit, but it got so big that they decided to make it, and they made 2 and 3 back to back.
What do you think about the Skyway network that they was on? They had like road signs that said London in like 3 hours. And I was thinking about that, if not to get too geeked into the sci-fi aspect of it. You notice the hovering nodes.
Oh yeah.
Were on either side of the Skyway. And what I thought about it was like, okay, these things have to be like mag propulsion. So like if your car, because it said London, okay, London from California is a lot longer than a 3-hour flight.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I always thought it's like, okay, so if you're making a long drive through the Skyway to London, your car's probably got some gadget in it that just mag locks onto the nodes and goes at like Mach speeds because it's mag locked, and there's no risk of hitting anybody because you're all on the same track.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well,
yeah.
Here's the other aspect of that is back then they had Concorde jets, which were supposed to be like the fastest jets at the time. And then they went away for safety regulations and some other things. And I don't know enough about airplanes and air traffic control, but I think they're limited as to the max speed of a particular airplane that you can fly. But I think the idea from back then was that planes are going to get faster, travel is going to be a lot easier and a lot more simple to get from point A to point B. And unfortunately, we haven't gotten it yet. But it's still a cool idea. London
in 3 hours. California.
London in 3 hours would be amazing.
Last hover train to London. Last train to London. Bye.
Yeah, absolutely. But we mentioned Back to the Future. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of my favorite Huey Lewis and the News songs, "Power of Love."
Oh yeah,
did Back in Time.
His cameo as the faculty member going, "You guys are just too darn loud."
Yes, his cameo there, but also Huey Lewis and the News was approached for Ghostbusters, and they turned that down. They were also approached by Coca-Cola to do something, and they turned that down. And then they finally realized that they're missing out on all the money doing soundtracks. So they decided to do Back to the Future. And the problem was that Huey Lewis didn't want to do a song called Back to the Future. And so they were like, no, this movie is a movie about Marty McFly, and Huey Lewis and the News would be one of his favorite bands because they were huge at the time. Just give us whatever you got. And Power of Love was their song that was going to be on their next album, 4. And they went ahead and gave it to them for that. And when 4 was released in the United States, it doesn't have Back in Time because it's on the Back to the Future soundtrack. Yeah. However, the European release of 4 does have that song.
Yeah,
it does have Power of Love on it. So they also did Back in Time, which I think is an underrated song for that movie. But
that was the official movie song that they written for the film.
Yeah, Back in Time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what an amazing soundtrack. So. That's why, with my channel, that's why it's the music, it's the movies, it's the TV shows, it's, the toys, those things, because they all kind of intertwine together the way that they did back then. They don't do as much today, unfortunately. But you mentioned other influences, other tech. Was there another tech movie or TV show that really?
Blade Runner was a good one. The Running Man.
Oh,
It got
gosh.
me into dystopian like cyber cities, like any like big black buildings and musky, rainy environments. That was a foreseeable future in a lot of aspects. Terminator was another one. It really got us to really be concerned about our computer tech. That's the thing about 80s sci-fi film and TV series is this was the age of analog. We were refining our circuitry down to chips the size of a Dorito, which of course is now quite obsolete compared to the chips that we can fit underneath our thumbnail.
So
But
let me
let
me stop you right there because you're making some great points. So in the 60s and the 70s, they already started that, and it just came full force in the 80s. So you have books like I don't know if you've read the classic Isaac Asimov's The Machine That Won the War. It's a short story about a computer system that defended Earth from an alien attack, and it really won the war. And how do they deal with that machine? The funny thing is, we read it in high school. Nobody got it except me, the geek who read all the sci-fi stuff and sat there and explained to the whole class what it was about, which is kind of funny. But you had Colossus, which, hey, if you're keeping up with Pop Culture Breakdown,
I'm going to be there in a couple of days. So I gotta rewatch that film.
You got movies like that, and you have movies in the 70s that analog that was coming towards that, and technology that really could take over the world. And then the 80s started to look at, hey, what does the digital future look like?
Mm-hmm.
And you had War Games, Terminator, and
War Games, man. Yes.
Oh yeah. And all of these movies which kind of pushed the brink and pushed the computer technology that much further. And nowadays you've got, with the digital revolution, with all the in the 90s, you've got all the CGI and all of that. And then now we've got actual AI that's working. It's already here, and it's kind of scary. But those movies and that technology have kind of inspired some of that, and inspired some of the boom. And how cool is that? So we mentioned a couple of movies right there. Blade Runner. I did a thing on Blade Runner. Go check out my video. I'm not going to review it all. I think Blade Runner, I understood it and had a better appreciation for it as an adult than I did as a kid. But I was just marveled at the technology and the futuristic backgrounds. We mentioned War Games. Oh my gosh, with Matthew Broderick. What a great movie.
Great movie. Great film.
I mean, and that was him and Ali Sheedy, and that was PG. And Dabney Coleman's in that too. And you're sitting there going, oh my goodness, what's going on? Thermonuclear war. Holy cow. From just a minor computer game that we had as a kid, might as well have been a board game, but wow, the technology that moved forward. And then Terminator, oh my goodness. I mean, Terminator was legit scary because I don't know, what was your impression when you first saw it? I mean, like I thought, okay, he's dead. Yay, they finally won. They got out. Reese is still alive, and we're all good. And then all of a sudden,
it stood up out of the wreckage.
Yeah.
And it looked the thing I like about the Terminator lore. The reason why that head looks like a skull is Skynet was so advanced that it understood psychological warfare. It understood how to impose a terrifying presence to intimidate and invoke fear, and to remind its opponents that it is invincible and you can't stop it.
Exactly.
So when it rose from that wreckage, like most slasher films follow that trope where, oh yeah, we finally got the bad guy, but then he comes back for either one last kill, one last scare, one last final attack. That's like a common slasher trope. And in a lot of ways, Terminator is a slasher film. It just has a sci-fi element. Mm-hmm. But it was slow. It was imposing.
Mm-hmm.
And it started coming at him again. Mm-hmm. It was designed in a future that could handle modern ballistics because it had evolved weaponry into light mass, not just lasers, but light mass, plasma weapons. the Winchester plasma rifle with 40 kilowatt range. Hey, just what you see, pal. Right. So
Uzi submachine gun.
Uzi 9mm.
Uzi 9mm.
So it's like, so you got to think about it for a second. It's like, yeah, that scene is the stuff of nightmares, because if a machine was ever designed to be that powerful, nobody could stop it. A small army couldn't stop it.
And honestly, even though it was practical effects and stop motion back then, oh my gosh, that still worked really well. Some of it I still think works better and holds up better today than some of the CGI that we have.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was legit scary. And then, you have Reese and he blows it up and you think, okay, it's finally dead. And then all of a sudden,
there it is again, grabbing his foot, grabbing his ankle. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Linda Hamilton and her performance in that movie.
Oh yeah.
She was just flat out amazing. What a great character. What a great job she did, because you saw the growth of Sarah Connor in that movie, which was fantastic. That was one of the other great movies about it. But you mentioned tech, going on in the 80s. What were some other tech movies that really inspired you as a tech?
Outside of Terminator, Blade Runner, Running Man.
Yes, Running Man.
Yeah, I think this is a 70s film, but my memory's a bit hazy on it. But as far as dystopia is concerned, Soylent Green was very good.
Yes, Soylent Green was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Running Man was in the 80s with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I love that movie. Now let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, Richard Dawson. He's a runner. You gotta pick a stalker.
Oh, gosh.
Dynamo was my favorite. Dynamo was my favorite stalker. Who was your favorite stalker?
I don't know. Though that was, because you have Captain Fantastic, which Jesse Ventura. But what was the guy? The guy that had the all the tech with the
Dynamo.
Or
Dynamo.
Not Dynamo. That guy. I thought that guy was.
He had with the car even. God.
I liked Fireball. That's
Fireball was good. Fireball was awesome. It's like, that movie actually inspired some like video games, very controversial one that came out for the PlayStation 2 called Manhunt.
Yeah.
Where you were basically on the run from people that were stalking and killing you. It was the synopsis of the game. It's just, and it's also a callback to, the game, the Huntsman's game, where man is the prize, the ultimate quarry. Like we have this base need to hunt stuff and to stalk stuff and to kill stuff. Like, so, when you get to a point where your future is so depressing to live in that you got to basically be like a spectator in a modern gladiator arena, a literal gauntlet of seeing some guy who's, on death row try and survive an otherwise impossible game that's rigged from the start.
Well, and, that movie also kind of was precursor to reality TV that we have today as well.
Yeah.
So, which is interesting, but also, another person that has a small role in that movie is Nick Fleetwood.
Yes.
Zach, who's the crazy guy who is in there trying to disrupt the thing and bring things back to normal. And the funniest part of that movie is he references pop culture stuff like Mr. Spock and Gilligan's Island, and the guys that are around him have no idea what he's talking about. It's hilarious.
I think Demolition Man was a 90s film, like early 90s.
Demolition Man was a 90s film with Wesley Snipes.
I like that one.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see here. What was...
Well, the idea of somebody frozen in time that long, and then they come out and it's a whole new world. And some of the stuff they got a little bit right, some of it really wrong, but it was kind of cool. It was a lot of fun. Demolition Man. Wesley Snipes was crazy in that It was
Now I would not be the community's Tony Stark if I wasn't a bit of a futurist.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to share with you a little secret. I know how to use 3 seashells.
really.
I am willing to share that with you right now. Everybody, pull out your notebooks in the chat. I'm only going to go over this once, okay? That's right, the 3 seashells, okay? You ready for this? Well, first thing you do is you grab the first shell, and then you turn it with the third twist, rinse them off. Did everybody get that?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. No, Demolition Man was really cool. You know, the other aspect of this as we got into the late 80s and early 90s was not only you had movies, soundtracks, even spin-off TV shows, but you had video games that came out for some of these movies too.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were notoriously bad. As we know, E.T. Was notoriously bad, and the cartridges are buried in Arizona somewhere. But you had some other movies that had some decent video games. You had, Back to the Future video games, a couple of them that were okay. One that was released on PlayStation like 20 years ago that was almost a sequel, which is actually kind of good. You had an Indiana Jones game on the NES that was kind of fun to play, especially for the third movie, and some other stuff. So you had all of this going together, all moving in the same direction, which made growing up as a kid a lot of fun. Any other tech movies as we get into the 90s? You mentioned Demolition Man. We mentioned
the 90s. Well, we can't go without one of the best. Again, I like flying cars. I like all things flying cars. Mm-hmm. And Bruce Willis was definitely like hitting them home with
the Fifth Element.
I'm talking about the Fifth Element. Yeah, let's not beat around the bush. Fifth Element. Just the traffic system in that whole mess.
Oh my goodness, the Fifth Element. That movie was revolutionary.
Yeah, it was.
I love that movie. It's weird, but it's good weird. And Mila Jovovich, I can't pronounce her last name.
Mila Jovovich, but don't worry. For a long time, I couldn't either.
She was gorgeous.
Yeah, she
was gorgeous. And then, so many wonderful actors in that movie. Who played the bad guy? I can't remember his name. It's rough.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman, yes. Gary Oldman, who played several bad guys, even Dracula and Lee Harvey Oswald, of all people. But Gary Oldman was great in that, even though it was kind of weird. And it had kind of a weird, fun premise to it. I mean, the thing about that movie is that it had all kinds of cool technology, and you're sitting there going, oh, wow, I wish we had that. That's kind of cool. That's kind of neat. But he kept it fun because they focused in on the characters and the story.
Mm-hmm.
And the technology was the second part. What parts of that movie with the flying cars and everything else?
Yeah, the McDonald's was hilarious.
Oh yeah, especially the cops getting McDonald's and then
they got the trade that was just shipping pre-made cheeseburger buns.
Well, we have some of that today. There's a McDonald's on the west side of Fort Worth that's all automated now. I've never been there, but it's interesting because everything is fully automated, fully digital, fully.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah,
in Demolition Man, though, it was all Taco Bell. Yes.
Yeah, it was.
And they became a ritzy steakhouse.
Taco Bell is becoming a meat casino or something like that,
Yeah, just this ritzy, it's like going into the gourmand and being like, oh well.
But
you guys don't have quesadillas anymore.
I want to take technology back a bit, a little bit with the 90s. One of the coolest movies and the coolest effects that just amazed me when I saw it as a kid. I was more of a teenager when I saw this movie was Jurassic Park.
Oh God, the perfect blend of practical and CG. Please go back.
Yes.
Please go back. Please.
My God, that was amazing because you only had that the blend of CG. You had a fun story. with a good book that was written. But also, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the score. And the score
Mhm.
for a lot of these movies were epic. John Williams at the forefront of all this, but I can't look at those dinosaurs or think about those dinosaurs without thinking the Jurassic Park theme.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like when they pan and you see the not Brontosaurus,
Brachiosaurus.
Brachiosaurus, and the Triceratops and everything else, and you're like sitting there going, "Oh wow, that is cool. They look like real life dinosaurs. This is what they would look like." Because I mean, growing up, we would go to dinosaur museums as part of school field trips, or my parents would take us to the different museums, and we
Mhm.
see the dinosaur bones and stuff. And we have kind of an area down here called Glen Rose in Texas where it had the dinosaur tracks, and you could go and see the dinosaur tracks, which were kind of cool to see.
Mhm.
So dinosaurs were huge as a kid, and that movie was just so incredible to watch, and how technology made it possible to see these creatures and what they would have looked like, you know?
Absolutely. And like nowadays when you see like dinosaur films, like that's another thing too, is dinosaurs is a big thing in the 90s. If you
Mhm.
were a kid in the 90s, you had those little rubber dinosaurs you got from the dollar store. Everybody had them. I had them.
Mhm.
Everybody had them. So it's like when Jurassic Park dropped it changed the game in a lot of ways. It took what we were imagining and put it on the screen. It peered into the mind's eye and
Mhm.
said, "This is what you're imagining. This is what you're pretending you're seeing when you're playing with your little rubber dinosaurs from the dollar store." It was such a cultural impact that McDonald's created the supersize combo. I remember the 8-ounce fry boxes in the shape of the velociraptor in the grass. I
Mhm.
remember collecting those cups.
Mhm.
You know, there was a time when pop culture guided people
Mhm.
through entertainment, and everybody was genuinely happier because of it. We don't have that now.
Well, and it was fun.
Yeah.
You went to that movie and you saw it on the big screen because it was fun, because you wanted all the noise and you wanted to see the big T-Rex on a big screen.
Yeah.
You wanted the surround sound and everything else, and then you wanted to look at this expanse with all these other dinosaurs in it and just be awed by it. And then you had the playability of those toys and the tie-in with the fast food chains and the commercials, and it was all about promoting the movie and having a good time and having an experience. And that's what's sorely missing today. It seems like we throw something up there quickly on the screen, and then how soon is it on the small screen or on our tablets or on any kind of stream? Really quick. I mean, not to get into modern stuff, but Dune 2 came out in the movie theater, epic, interesting movie to watch on the big
Yeah.
screen. But then it came to streaming like 2 or 3 months later. It was still in some of the theaters when it was on the stream. And I'm just sitting there going, no, you guys are doing it wrong. You want people to experience the epic and the vastness of the movie in the cinema. So,
Well, the cinema has definitely changed. We live in an era where the ratings board, there is no such thing as ratings anymore. There is no broadcasting terminals that are literally detecting how many TVs are tuned in on your signal. That doesn't exist anymore. With streaming, there is no basis for comparison to make good entertainment.
mhm.
You don't have that raw analytical data. What you have is a bunch of people that will go, yeah, I viewed your content, but here in about 2.5 minutes, I left because I was bored with it.
Mhm.
But hey, look at all the people that have viewed the content.
Well, and that's the thing is, as we get into the technology, the age of today,
Yeah.
and we see that the big thing about it is you don't see the competition. Granted, part of that is the pandemic recently, but you don't see the competing movie houses. Like, so back in the 80s, if you go and you looked at listings, you'd see 2 or 3 movies that you'd want to go see coming out in the same weekend. You had studios competing against each other head to head. and you don't see that anymore.
Nope.
And then with the stream wars, you don't really see that as much anymore because they're holding back so that they've got a time period when they release it to where they're not competing against each other, which is sad because I believe that naturally competition breeds and brings out the best in creatives and studios.
Yep.
And I think that's sorely missing today.
It's unfortunate, but it's true. The reason why we're getting, as some people would say, a veritable McDonald's of content where it's just being cranked out and people are expecting it is because of that very reason.
Mm-hmm.
There is no incentive to trump another creator. There is no friendly competition where you shake another dude's hand from another studio and go, okay, best man win. That's gone.
Exactly.
That is gone.
Nowadays, it has to be something that's a passion for somebody to make it quality and good. And you saw that with the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. That was Jon Favreau's story and his passion, the first 2 seasons. Season 3, I veered way away from that. But also the other show that I absolutely love, Cobra Kai.
Cobra
Kai is Cobra Kai. It's their passion. They're passionate about it. And we'll go on a tangent about that real quick. Give me 1 sec. I want to grab water real quick because my throat's drying up. Hang on 1 second.
No, you're good. You're good. While he is grabbing himself a glass of good old H2O, we'll do some catch up in the chat. Thank you for hanging out at Rob Wright's 1,000 subscriber stream. It was very deserved and well earned. He is very knowledgeable. I expect him to cartoonishly pull out something off screen any moment about what we're talking about because, he's known for that, especially on Pop Culture Breakdown. Oh, hi. We're just talking about you.
Oh, you want to pull out the Karate Kid movie?
Is it in arm's reach? What you have is a portal gun where you can just grab it and there it is. It's just right there. It's true though. It's true. It's like a cartoon, he just grabs it and pulls it out. It's right there. There it is. Like Sonora, you're muted.
I have it real close. And I mean, a couple weeks ago, I did the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Let me know if you want to do Karate Kid Part 2. Love Karate Kid and Karate Kid Part 2. Part 3, went down.
Part 3 was just a cash grab. They didn't.
Well, let's just talk about it real quick. First off, watch my video on the Karate Kid if you get a chance. A lot of fun. But that movie was a lot of fun because you had a kid, Daniel, that moved from Jersey to California for his senior year of high school, which is a hard thing. And when I was growing up, my dad was in the military, and we moved back from Georgia to Texas all the way until I got into 3rd grade. And we spent a couple of years one place and then move, and then a couple of years in another. So I know what it was like to move and make new friends. Unlike Daniel, I was very social as a child, still am today, and make new friends fairly easy. But I could relate to his experience of moving somewhere and meeting new people. So I thought that was instant relation to Daniel. And then you had this whole movie about bullying. And I think it was it and Lucas and a couple other ones really kind of explored some of that. Some of the Brat Pack explored some of that too, but we'll get into those movies a little bit later. But I think that the interesting thing about the Karate Kid is it really showed how difficult it can be kind of growing up and being a teenager and not getting along with people and the aspect of bullying and what you have to do to be able to stand up for yourself, earn respect, and, make it in this world and make it back then. I mean, we didn't have cyberbullying back then. We had literal people saying stuff to your face, doing physical things to you.
Yeah.
It was none of this he said, she said stuff on Twitter. It was actual real stuff.
This is, for those of you who are young, There was a time when being a nerd or a geek was not cool, and I know that's shocking to some, but there was a time where we would, take temporary residence in lockers, be dumped headfirst into trash cans, got intimate with the toilet. There were times when we were shook down for lunch money, smacked around, goaded. This stuff that people say on the internet that hurts others' fifis because we are catered in a society where everybody is as soft as sourdough. Don't know what bullying is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I didn't get really bullied as much. I mean, I got teased a little bit by kids in my neighborhood, but I grew out of that. And I was a little bit. I got my growth spurt, which I think helped a little bit.
Right.
But I remember as a little kid, I got bullied, and the bully made me eat sand, and I got sick from that. But that was when I was younger. I never really did the bullying, because I could never really treat somebody like that. But I had all kinds of stupid nicknames because I had allergies, and you can imagine what that did for kids. But Karate Kid really brought bullying in a different light and showed what it was like. And I think the interesting aspect of Daniel and his story, learning karate, getting a father figure in Mr. Miyagi. That's the other great thing about this movie and several movies in the 80s is you had several good father figure movies, movies where you had guys that were doing the right thing by others, which I think is great. And the person that talks about this all the time, you should follow his channel, especially on Rumble, is Rancor Steve with his Manorama on Tuesday nights. It's a little bit later at 9 o'clock Central, 7 Pacific, but he talks about all the elements of being a man. And a lot of that foundation and stuff, he did an 80s show and had me on there as a guest panelist. And a lot of these 80s movies had some of those qualities. And, Daniel and Mr. Miyagi and just the things that he learned about life, balance for life, was just fantastic in this film. And it's one of the main reasons why it's one of my favorite. Any other thoughts on the Karate Kid and that aspect from Daniel's
standpoint? If you want to learn the whole karate, you must first watch Miyagi-Ka.
Yes, wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off.
Yeah.
That was one of the cool thing about Karate Masters is like the first thing they do is they labor you. They put you through this grinder of menial tasks just to see if you have the discipline to become a student. And that was my favorite part of the training.
That and he developed some muscle memory where he's like complaining, and then Mr. Miyagi does that thing with his. So really, from what I understand, this is basically you're just putting heat on a muscle to get it to loosen up. That's basically what he's doing with that, or he's popping it back into place. But when he's like, show me wax on, wax off, and then he shows them why he's doing this and that he's actually learning karate with all of these moves. That blew me away. But then you kind of apply it to. So I'm not going to get too far to this, but sports as a kid, this is why you would practice the fundamentals because you wanted the muscle memory so that when you play the game, you could actually hit the ball, perform it well. And that's what it was all about. It's muscle memory. So
your body is a machine, but you got to tell it what to do. This is advice that I recently got from Andy Masterson. Whenever you're doing like your beginning exercises, he's helping me with my weight loss now. And everything in your body is designed fundamentally to work in an environment that it is used to. And sometimes you have to break that mold and train it from the ground up to get it to do what you want it to do. Your body is going to do what it naturally does otherwise. And if you're sedentary, it's going to be inefficient and it's going to drag you down. But if you're active and you know what you're doing and you're controlling it, it will do anything you need it to do when you need it to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, the other aspect of this movie that I forgot to mention, which I shouldn't, Elizabeth Shue.
No, Elizabeth Shue, aka
Oh,
the other Jennifer.
Yes. Oh, I had a crush on her. I thought she was gorgeous in this movie. And then she was great in Adventures in Babysitting. She was really hot in that. And then I got so disappointed when I saw her with Tom Cruise in Cocktail, because I was like, oh, man, Tom Cruise gets another one? Oh, but she was hot in that as well. But yeah, she was great. I wish she was in the second one. The second one I thought was a fantastic movie because it dealt with Mr. Miyagi and his past and everything like that. And I thought that movie was one of the rare sequels that was completely had the same parts of part one, where you see the beginning with Kreese and all of that, but it was kind of a new story, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Which I remember going to see it with all my friends. And we saw it and we thought it was just really cool with Chosen and everything else. We thought, wow, this is completely different. It's not another tournament. It's not another thing. It's a different aspect of bullying that was still a main theme of it. But wow, it's just so cool, so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But and then you get to see Miyagi's story and you get really the development of that character. And so it's the development of one character in one story, and then the further development of another character in another story. And then Karate Kid 3 really, it didn't really work that well. I mean, Terry Silver was amazing in it.
Yeah.
And there's some aspects of it. Mike Barnes was a great bully foil for Daniel, but you pretty much use the same formula as the very first one again, which I don't know. It had some cheese factor to it. There were some good.
It had a lot of cheese, it had a lot of cheese. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But
it was rushed.
Yes, it was. So that brings us to Cobra Kai. So with that foundation of those great characters and the great story, Cobra Kai was brought in, and it is really interesting because in the early aughts, they had this idea of, hey, what if Daniel was the real bully in Karate Kid? What is Johnny's perspective? And I don't know if you're familiar with the song Sweep the Leg by No More Kings. Yeah. So that was directed by William Zabka, and he got Ralph Macchio for part of that video as well. And the video is basically, the song's called Sweep the Leg, and it's kind of Johnny's perspective of what happened. And it's kind of a hilarious video because it really goes into Zabka's career as Johnny Lawrence and even his role in Back to School. But you had that notion, and then you had these wonderful writers who created Cobra Kai. And the reason why I love Cobra Kai so much also is it got my subscription to YouTube Red. Before, YouTube was just something I would jump on. I didn't have a membership or anything, but I became a member because I wanted to see Cobra Kai because it's interesting. And I think Cobra Kai, the success of it is they took the Johnny Lawrence character and, number one, they humanized him a whole lot. They showed his point of view. They showed who he was. And I think that's what made it interesting is that you had, Sean Carter. Yes, How I Met Your Mother. They had Zabka on there. And his point of view. Yes, you're absolutely right. How I Met Your Mother influenced that. Absolutely. Thanks, Sean. Yes, I forgot to mention that. But they took the Johnny Lawrence character and said, okay, wait a minute. Here's another main figure of the Karate Kid. What's his story? What's his background? What made him be the guy he was? And they took that and created this awesome story around it. And they stayed true to the original characters, further developing their story and their backstory and their current story. And then they brought in a younger generation and grew them together. They didn't insult their past story. They brought in new characters, developed them, and created something magical. And
that's what I like about legacy storytelling.
Exactly. Go ahead. Go on to that point. Tell me more.
There's a thing that could be said about a lot of these other things that are coming out that try to humanize a bad guy, or
Mhm.
farm sympathy for a heel. There's people out there that feel sympathetic for a character like Homelander, who is a complete scumbag, but there's that sympathy play that they're doing. In this instance, Johnny is real. He's a very real human-like character
Mhm.
who had his own trials and tribulations, while Daniel had everything basically served him in a silver platter since that day, and just coasted through life, winning all the time. And then because he got comfortable with his success, he becomes, an asshole. He becomes, the heel. Life is about living it. It's about growing within it, and perspectives change. Nobody is going to be 19 forever. You're going to have things that happen throughout your life that's going to change the way you see things. Wins, losses, gains, deductions, doesn't matter. And what you get is a realistic aspect that plays on the trope that the good guy is always supposed to win until they become the bad guy. And that's inherently what Cobra Kai is. So the big bad wolf's perspective of blowing down the 3 houses is done excellent with this series. I love it. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And you've got Johnny Lawrence, the character who was the bully in the first one,
Yeah.
teaching the geeky, dorky kids
Mm-hmm.
how to not only do karate, but the other aspect of this that I think gets left out is, as a teenager, we're trying to find ourselves, trying to find out what we're good at, trying to build our confidence. And part of the problem with adolescence and growing up is that it's hard to find our confidence in something because we don't yet know our true abilities or our true natures. And Johnny, taking these kids under his wing, helps them develop confidence in themselves. You look at a character that I love, Hawk.
Yeah.
How he flipped the script, he developed confidence, and you see that character. You're seeing it being developed. You saw it developed clearly in the first season with Miguel, how he developed self-confidence with that. And you see exactly Richard Spake. It's a redemption story. It's individual redemption stories within it. So it's all of that. That's this really the accumulation, and it's kind of flipping the script a little bit on, Daniel's training the bad kid and Johnny's training the good kids. And then what happens when you bring back Kreese, who is the bad teacher, at the end of season 1 into season 2, into season 3, really kind of builds on that. And you still have some growth for Daniel because he's still a hothead and he has to learn to get along with people and learn to overcome some of his faults. You see Johnny's growth and development. You see how they relate to the other adults in the show. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant mix that works.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a redemption story, but it's also a story about how people are just people. There is no set designation of characters in this film. All of these characters have an equitable or equal amount of depth to them. They're all relatable on multiple levels. It's a telling of so many people from so many walks of life, all these poor kids that don't have hope, going through their own version of Daniel's story when he had to deal with his own troubles. Alongside the adults, Daniel and Johnny, overcoming real issues, being emotionally invested in these issues, overcoming things through struggle and adversity and even comfort to become the best versions of themselves. Nobody's perfect. This is a story about people. That's the thing, that this is not, a cut and dry cookie cut. This is a good guy. This is a bad guy. Oh, this is typical of what this kind of person would do. This is a story that's very focused around people and how people act in real life.
Characters.
Yeah.
It's character driven. Let's pause for a second. I want to say hi to Rod Thunderheart. Glad you're here. And I want to say congratulations to Richard Spake. It looks like his kitty has arrived.
Kitty.
That's so awesome, Richard. So glad you got a new pet. Pets are our family. They provide wonderful nourishment and wonderful things for people. And I always want to congratulate people when they get new pets. It's just so awesome. And Suzanne, thanks for being here. Go follow Suzanne. She's got a stream later on. Thank you so much.
Suzanne's got a stream? What?
Yes.
Shut the front door.
Yeah. So
you're kidding me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But, yeah. So anyway, Suzanne, thanks for joining us. Certainly glad you're here, and thank you so much for being a channel member. Sean Carter also brings up with Cobra Kai succeeds because it took one bad guy and showed his human story, but it still had actual bad guys. It avoided that awful villains are just misunderstood trope. I agree 100%. Mm-hmm. And, as we get into this, we'll do, because it's been out for about a month already, into spoilers into season 6, which they're breaking down into 3 parts. Yeah. So I don't like that, but I understand it. And let's just talk about season 6, just because we're talking about Cobra Kai and the greatness. And I'm sure the audience wouldn't mind learning about
at least the first segment of it.
Yeah, the first segment of it. Yeah. I think there are 3 characters to me that really stood out with their journey and their story. Let's just take them kind of one by one in a way. The first one I think was Dimitri. Dimitri building more and more of his confidence. Granted, a beautiful woman can inspire a man to do many great things, but just that he built some confidence and was able to make the team was interesting. It's fascinating to see how far that character's come from somebody that was that we can relate to as geeks and nerds because of all his pop culture love. Learning how to fight and not really wanting to do the muscle memory and all that stuff, wanting to get into MIT, which he does get into MIT and accomplish his goals, but also he develops himself physically, and he actually is able to use his skills that he's developed into a well-rounded character. More on him in a minute, but I thought his story was interesting. Obviously, the next person is Tori, and just her and Sam kind of making up was kind of nice, but then she still has her demons and her issues with her mom passing, and that was an interesting aspect of that because she's coming in anger, and the LaRussos have helped her, and yet, they're trying to help her. Would you have let her fight Sam with her anger with her mom dying?
No, because she's not focused.
Yes.
All. Yeah.
And the other aspect of her character, it's not unlike a teenager at her age to be a little bit more self-centered. But it's also kind of like you lost a member of your family that kind of ghosts you, because she basically tunes everybody out.
Yeah.
Comes the thing, takes her anger out on Sam. They stop her and she storms off. And then at the very end, the big spoiler at the end is that she's now on Team Cobra Kai for the Sekai Tai tournament, which, you see her character just kind of go completely dark. And in some ways you feel sorry for that. And you can understand a family member doing that. And you sit there and you're kind of screaming, or at least I'm screaming, but wait a minute, these people helped you.
Right. Poor Miguel trying to keep them from going to blows, though, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like
for real. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, come on, you've come so far. You finally made up with people. We're all on the same team. This is feel good stuff. You're finally, you're fighting for a captain. You made it. You're on the team. You're part of the group. You're not just somebody that's, gosh. And then, but then again, losing family members, that's always difficult. I can't imagine what she was going through losing her mom. So, I mean, I could kind of understand it. But wow, it's just interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens with her in the next couple episodes. But the third character that I want to talk about, which had sneaky, awesome growth, and hang on once. Fun Texas allergies here.
Mhm.
Is Johnny Lawrence and how
Yep,
he really
Johnny.
embraced Miyagi Do.
Yeah. I was like, whenever he was like, by the way, Miyagi-Do's got priority. You got this. I was just like, like he told Daniel, basically conceded to Daniel. Like,
Yes, I couldn't believe it. But also, the scene with Stingray where he gets that
Yeah.
call and you're like, oh, good grief.
right.
And he goes there and he sees Coyote Creek and he sees Stingray teaching it. And he's like, you know what? No. And he totally leaves it. And he realizes that there's balance. He realizes that he has to get balance in his life. And that's an interesting change for his character.
Yeah, it's not a revenge quest anymore.
No, and I think there's something about his character that's interesting this season because I think he developed some sort of peace. Now you still have some ridiculousness for him working for the LaRusso Auto Group and becoming a decent salesman, and you're like sitting there going, "Wow, Johnny, good job!"
But what are you doing, man? This isn't you. I actually thought of that whenever I saw Deadpool, working for that car company. That was the first thought that went through my mind. It was like, oh my God, he's pulling a Johnny Lawrence. He's working for a freaking car dealership.
Yeah. Hey, can you invite Rod Thunderheart into the live stream?
Oh, he wants to come hang out? Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, if you could do that. But yeah, Johnny Lawrence's change in here. Now you had some of the usual Johnny where he's trying to buy the house with Chosen, which is hilarious. And you have Johnny also working for the LaRussos, which that whole thing is just a lot of fun and very funny. I cracked up at that. I thought that was hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
But, were there any other aspects of these first 5 episodes that you wanted to bring up with any characters?
I like what Kreese is going through, especially whenever he's like, yeah, I want my dojo, Master Kim, to represent Cobra Kai. Is that okay? He's like, no. But, it's a fun, there's too much to really talk about. This could become a stream in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Just the whole thing, man. Especially whenever Tori is like at the medical center at the end of episode 5.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's just nuts.
Oh, it's crazy. It's insane. And I mean, the fact that her mom died was interesting, and how it set her off because, like, she said, you said she was getting better and all this other stuff, and I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, and then
getting better. Oh no, wait.
Yeah, and the other aspect, I'm sitting there going, okay, what about her brother? Isn't there some more responsibility? I mean, I guess there was somebody else that's helping out. By the way, did you send the link to Rod Thunderheart?
I did.
Okay.
It's in his private DM correspondent.
Yeah, Rod, look for it in private DM from Tony. And then whenever he pops up, I'll have him join. But yeah, I mean, it's just interesting. I love where we're going and what we have with it. I love the character building on it. And, the thing about it, Robbie and Miguel really didn't have a whole lot in this first 5 episodes.
No, there wasn't a lot of Miguel screen time, period.
No, there was. I think part of it was because he was filming a movie, but
yeah,
their fight was good. Kind of rehash of season 1. Only, Robbie wins, which I thought was interesting, cool twist. Robbie, I think, has come into his own as a character as well.
True.
And I love the fact that they've grown to kind of accept each other as almost brothers now, which is really kind of cool. So I like the aspect of where that's going. And then, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention the Miyagi stuff.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Miyagi fighting the Saikai, and
the
then
Sekai Takai.
yeah, and then his name being different and birth date being different, and it relating to the next Karate Kid, which was an okay movie, but it wasn't as good as the first two Karate Kid movies.
Now, the thing I liked about that is that's like a callback to some of these martial artists that enter tournaments, where they'll put on a wig or they'll have a different uniform and they'll do just minimal stuff to represent as a different combatant. And it's even parodized in Dragon Ball whenever Master Roshi comes on there in a suit and he's a totally different person. And he's like. Some of these martial artists like to do that. They like to enter tournaments twice. But it's really cool. Really, really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, you got him, and then the whole Kreese thing where Kreese goes on that quest you mentioned. How on earth do you survive getting bit by a albino cobra? I'll never know.
I thought he was done for.
I thought he was too. I thought, okay, he's going to die. But I'm just interested in seeing more of the younger Kreese as part of the story.
Yeah.
As well, because we got a little bit of that. I thought it was fleshed out really well back then. But I want to get into what do we expect from the next 5 to 10 episodes. I've got a couple theories, a couple of thoughts. What are your thoughts first?
I think Tori is going to become captain again, but only through like an intense hardship. I think she's going to have her coming up story. I think Daniel's finally going to acknowledge Johnny's worth and the dojo of Cobra Kai. I think, simply because that's going to be like a return whenever Johnny was like, oh yeah, Miyagi-Do. Yeah, you got it. From that conceit. So we're going to see them actually start a very close, mutual understanding. There's going to be a handshake. There's going to be a handshake at some point. There's going to be a handshake. I see Miguel also helping Sam come into his own a little bit more. I just see all this stuff. It's going to be really, really great.
Yeah, I hear a couple of things, and I'm not reading any spoilers or giving any spoilers of what I think is coming up, but here's what I think.
Okay.
So Mike Barnes alluded as to people have died in this tournament. I think so. We mentioned Dimitri building up confidence and stuff. I think he's either going to get severely injured or be on the brink of death or possibly die.
Oh,
I don't want them to. They may not kill off a character like that, but I think he's going to get severely injured or hurt, and I think that
would be a lesson in reality versus confidence, though.
Yeah, that'd be reality. Well, I mean, he's got everything going for him right now, and sometimes you build up a character like that to bring him back down to earth.
And bring him low.
Yeah, that, and it would kind of inspire Hawk. Not to think that Hawk's going to win the thing, but I think Hawk will have his moments.
Yeah.
In it, and I think something like that will inspire him. And speaking of fighters, bringing him to the stage, Mr. Rod Thunderheart, welcome. How are you, sir?
I don't have my soundboard up to do the wrestler. I apologize. But on that note, now that you got another talking partner, I need to go to the facilities. So after these messages, I will be right back.
Okay. Yeah. Rod, have you seen Cobra Kai season 6?
I have not, actually.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, we're talking about some.
I know. I was listening. I was listening to it.
Some speculation. Yeah. So, I think Dimitri's probably going to get. It's probably severely hurt. I think Miguel will probably end up winning it. I think Kreese. Something happens with Kreese. Either he dies or somewhere where he makes it up to Johnny in some way. Because I think there's reconciliation in his storyline. I think Terry Silver's going to return. I think we're going to find out that he has a terminal illness. I think also that you're going to find out that there's a Mr. Miyagi connection to Cobra Kai. I think that Ian Sato may have created some of the aspects of Cobra Kai that get perverted and get changed and developed further by Master Kim. I think there's a relation there. I think there's some interesting stuff to Mr. Miyagi's background, and I wonder if Mr. Miyagi had a relative in America that he was trying to cover for. So I think all of that will be an interesting background. Those are my thoughts, but I think it'll end with Johnny leading the dojo permanently, and that's his permanent job, and Daniel's helping finance it. And then I think apparently there's supposed to be a movie involving Daniel and then Jackie Chan's character from those Karate Kid movies coming together. So I think that'll be more of the exploring what happened with Mr. Miyagi. So
Wasn't there only the one?
Yeah, there's the only one Karate Kid movie with Will Smith's son and Jackie Chan, which that's an okay movie. I like the original Karate Kid better, but
Well, yeah.
They should have called it the Kung Fu Kid, really. I mean, 'cause that's really what it was.
Well, I mean, and a lot of his Jackie Chan's training's in Kung Fu more so than karate, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You know, he's Chinese. I mean, yeah, you know.
Yeah. So interesting. Tony, did you hear any of my theories while you were gone?
I heard some of it, but my bathroom's on the other side of the apartment, so it takes me. I don't wear a headset. I'm one of those weird streamers that doesn't wear a headset.
I don't wear one either. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. So Rod, coming in here, let me ask you a couple of questions. So I started my channel based upon all the pop culture that I loved. What were some movies and TV shows that really influenced and inspired you growing up?
Well, obviously, Karate Kid was one of them. I would definitely have to put definitely put Superman near the top. I think Popeye would also be one of them too. I mean, because I was a kid. I was a big time into comics, and then all of a sudden, said, "Hey, they're making Popeye into a movie." I was like, "Holy crap!" I thought it was still cool to see, but then the part of me was still kind of well, it's not quite the movie starts where he actually hates spinach, and he's actually a pretty good brawler. The movie starts with him pretty much clearing out an entire bar by himself. No, no spinach needed. And that's where I was just kind of that's kind of weird, but okay. But I was still blown away. He had the big forearms, and all that, and then the one closed eye, and I just, it's yeah.
Robin Williams did a great job as Popeye. I thought he was good in the role.
Oh, he was perfect. Yeah.
The movie could have been a little bit better plot-wise, but it's Robert Altman, who's kind of bizarre anyway. Hey, Donnie, glad you're here, by the way.
Mr. Brown Alliance raid. Well, hell yeah.
Yes. Oh, wow. Thank you, guys. But Popeye's an interesting movie. Robin Williams did a good job, and all of what you're saying, where he beats up everybody. He even gets in the boxing ring with the one guy, too.
Yeah. Yeah. But probably another one of my big influences was Rad. And if you haven't seen it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I've heard of that movie, but I don't think I ever saw it. Who's in Rad?
There's nobody notable. It's just the guy's Bill Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Probably most famous person would be Lori Loughlin.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, I guess also his mom is actually Rocky's wife, Talia Shire.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then since we were just talking about Popeye, Ray Walston is in it. He played Pappy in Popeye. Who else? Bart Connor. He's actually an Olympic medal winning U.S. Gymnast for the United States. I forget what year, probably 84, I'll bet. But because I got I'll have to post some pictures of my BMX trophies, but I've got a shit ton of 3 years of winning trophies for BMX, and a lot of really huge. I'm real proud of them.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Thanks.
That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Where was it just motocross or was it also
No,
it just
bicycle motocross.
bicycle motocross? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, here, I'll take a quick walk and turn the lights on here in the basement. This is my pop culture corner.
Cool.
Oh, damn you, Buster! He knocked down my WWF belt.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that gumball machine was one that I won. There.
Oh, cool. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I figured you would have had your trophies closer to your weight bench for motivation.
Well, they're far enough away I can still see them.
That's a squat rack. My bad.
Wow. So
Well, it's also
how hard
an
was
overhead.
training for those events?
Oh, actually, the best part is that me and my brother, we out in the middle of the field out here on the farm. Dad has a sand pit, and yeah, and actually, little known fact, anybody in the city probably doesn't know this. I don't know if it's in the United States. I think it is. I'm not sure. I believe it's North America, but at the very least, here in Canada, you actually only own about the top 6 inches of land on your land. You only own the top 6. The rest belong to the government or whoever, and which is also one of the reasons why a lot of oil companies try to try to con you into like, yeah, well, like. Like, oh, I'll give you a few bucks, if I can travel onto your land and go drilling, and all that. And like,
Yeah,
that,
mineral rights. Yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah, that never works out. Anyway, getting back to the, we built, there's a sand pit dug right into it, like really, really like deep. And my brother and I started it, and then my brother helped me finish. We crafted a track out on just out in the middle of the field, and it was fun, and like that's where a few of my dirt jumping photos come from. In fact, I've got a few videos of me and my brother just filming doing some dirt jumping out there.
Awesome.
And yeah, but like we did a lot of practice. We built some dirt berms and all that, and like basically a whole track. And yeah, we and that's how we got our practice in for BMX racing. So
very cool.
Yeah. So that's why. That's why Rad was one of my most influential video games, and I highly movies. And if you're, I highly recommend you track down this movie too. So
Yeah,
it's got a really kick-ass soundtrack too.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, those have been my probably my most influential.
Yeah. Any TV shows or music that influenced you growing up?
I did like rock and roll, although honestly, I find myself. It's funny because like the way I look at pop music now is more like I'm just kind of it's just like real pop. It has no real value to your body, and like when you consume it, it's just kind of like, so I'm just kind of like, But on the other hand, it still did speak to me growing up because like the very first song played on MTV. Does anybody know what it is?
Video Killed the Radio Star.
That's right. Yeah, and I like that. I like that. I like that one because and then like as I got older, I discovered it had a deeper message too. Because first of all, it's not the first version of the song, you know, and then it was, you know, and like I heard you on the wireless back in 52. So
Mhm.
like, you know, I mean, like a lot, it goes over a lot of people's heads, you know, but I mean, like, man, you know, like that's obviously talking about radio technology back then.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yep. It
Yeah.
was. They were getting moving in towards synth,
Yeah.
synthesizers, and everything else, and digital, and then perfect for MTV because you had people making videos prior to MTV, but it wasn't as commercial or as popular until MTV hit it. So
Yeah. MTV made it mainstream.
yeah, oh yeah, MTV was so huge. MTV was just, I mean, just an explosion of music and everything. I mean, gosh, I mean,
I
you
miss
had,
those days.
yeah, I do
They
too.
don't do, they don't, they, I mean, like shit, movie or music videos used to be mini movies, you know,
Mhm.
and now they're just, you know, just pretty much just concert
They're
performances
just
now.
different angles of a camera pointed at the performer doing random stuff.
Exactly.
Exactly.
There isn't. I haven't seen a good music video in 20 years.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
and MTV. I mean, gosh, if you look at all the different music videos from back then, you had just all this creativity. You had, you know, ZZ Top with all their music videos. They tried to make it kind of a story to where the three guys were kind of the band was the angels who the guy get the girl, and they toss him the keys to the eliminator at the end of every single one of them. And you had stuff like that, and you have the developmental ones that really developed technology. You had like "Take on Me" by Aha. I don't know if that song would be as popular without the video. You had Sledgehammer, which just was phenomenal claymation video.
Yeah.
I Want My MTV, Money for Nothing, which
Yeah.
started digital technology. I mean, just phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. Sean Carter, Take on Me, Money for Nothing, Sledgehammer.
Look at these yo-yos. That's the way
Yeah.
you do it. Play a guitar on the MTV. That
Yeah.
ain't working.
Yeah.
That's the way you do it.
I mean,
Yeah. And then so 37 years later, you get censored, and
Yeah.
radios won't even play it anymore.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
if
there
they
was a
do,
time
they'll
when
just they'll
computer
blank out that
technology-
one. They'll blank out that one line.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah, they
the
will.
little blank with his earring and his makeup.
Yep.
Nobody wants his own weakness.
Well, you know, the other aspect of some of these videos is that, you know, remember, movie soundtracks became really big in the 80s too. And so you would have, I mentioned this before, the music video would be a mini movie trailer for the actual movie. So you have several videos that were that would show, you know, it's like you're watching part of the movie right there. So, but that was cool too. So, very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know,
Very cool.
kind of talked about the chronicle of pop culture going from like the 80s into the tech boom in the 90s and the big boom in the aughts and where it is today. You know, and the whole reason for my channel is because I want to remind everybody of the great stuff that we had back then, back in the day, and just kind of bring everybody back to, you know, what was good, what was enjoyable. And it's all about the fun that we're missing. So what are your thoughts about, you know, compared back then to today? What do you think's missing? What's the difference?
What today? You mean?
Yeah. So like when we look at all the stuff that was great back then, was it just us growing up? What's missing in your opinion? What's your thoughts on today's pop culture versus back then?
Oh, simple. Nothing today here is made with heart. Nobody is dedicated with. They're all just interested in cranking it out. Like, you know, I mean, like Tom Connor said it best. You know, like the McDonald'sization of movies, and like just pop culture in general. You know, I mean, because like it's like suddenly in the early 2000s they kind of just discovered that like, hey, if we if we popularize all the geek stuff and make it into a movie or do this or that, like make more games or do this, we can make money, and but now it's just kind of like they're just like, all right, another one, send it to the internet, stuff, just extra stuff that they think is going to make money, and it's not, because no, I mean it's only like it's a niche. I mean that part of it, that particular thing is a niche culture. There's only certain types of geeks who like that stuff. So no, stop it. And then I mean, but when you go back to the things that were made in the 80s, like 80s and 90s, this was things that people poured their heart into. I mean, as I keep banging on this over and over again, like I've said in Tony's, where I mean, just the amount of work they put into casting the proper person in a role. I mean, Christopher Reeve was one of thousands of people, and then they whittled it down to 100
There's
to
the
about
cartoon!
50.
Robert Wright has, sorry to interrupt, but Robert Wright has this uncanny ability to just reach off the screen, whatever we're talking about. I mentioned this last night, and you're seeing it in real time. He just pulled it out of nowhere. He's got a portal gun. He has to have one.
Yeah. Stuff like that. It's just I mean, and then they found him, but then he was just kind of well, maybe you could be a little bit bigger, and then he's like, no, I'll do it. And all of a sudden, 2 months later, he came back and he was buff as hell, and and it worked. It was perfect, and I mean, all the casting back then was just kind of I mean, and again, I love how Paul Cheadle puts it, which is, he says that, I mean, somebody can be charismatic in person, but I mean, but on camera, their charisma doesn't come through, but then there's others that just have that magic, that just, there's something about them that just it just comes right through the camera. And then, and as Paul Cheadle calls it, he says, they have the royal jelly, and there's just something about them that just oozes charm, charisma, and physique, and just personality that just but casting today is just simply kind of, he looks like him, let's take him, after they look at 10 people,
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about heart, and we mentioned Cobra Kai, which is made with heart, but a movie that recently came out, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, his heart is in that character. He loves that character. He grew up in the character. That's
nice, Bull.
And he pushed to get Deadpool 3, Deadpool and Wolverine moved through, and it's successful because it has that heart, because Ryan Reynolds is putting his whole heart into it. The other aspect is I think Hugh Jackman does love his character Wolverine that he's played for decades, and his heart is in that movie. So those are examples of heart, and we're seeing that they're successful because of that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Says that's Rob's superpower: spatial retrieval of objects outside of frame. I used the portal gun recently to get some stash, but I think I'm just going to use Robert's natural ability from now on.
Yeah, and Sean Carter mentions here that everything today is formulaic. In the 80s and 90s, you could identify a song within the first 3 seconds. After that, not at all. And he also says, although some of the stuff today is starting to get back to originality, I actually have some hope for music right now, but only a little. Yeah, I don't know about today's music. I just worry about the synth and stuff like that. I want people to get back to writing, playing and singing their own stuff rather than this pre-done dance pop stuff that they're not even doing. I thought it got too corporate, especially in the aughts with music. Not to say it wasn't corporate before, but wow, it's gotten way corporate. nowadays with formulaic stuff, as Sean Cotter has mentioned. But all right, let's talk a little bit about this aspect of heart. So we mentioned some movies back then that had heart. Is there any hope for anything that you're seeing on the horizon that possibly has some heart in it that you maybe are looking forward to, or you maybe think could happen?
I'm putting
No.
my chips down. I'm putting my chips down on Alien Romulus and Beetlejuice. Put my chips down on those.
Okay.
I expect some disappointment, but then again, we have rose tinted glasses, and we're perfectionists, and it's very hard for us to be satisfied. We're
So
going to nitpick. But
let's take those one at a time. Let's talk about Alien Romulus. What gives you that feeling about that movie?
excellent marketing. The return to form with the actual xenomorph face huggers, they're going back to the roots of it being a horror element of a space monster in an isolated, area deep in the void where you can't even escape it. And, there's going to be that feeling where you're going to be prey again, and that's what I'm looking forward to. It's going to have that alien vibe. Yes, youngling, I hear you.
Yeah, Rod, you disagree. You said that you're not seeing anything. Tell me more about that. What?
The only thing, well, okay, I have a slight hope for Beetlejuice, but no, the Alien movies haven't been good for several years. Probably not since Aliens, and that's it. I mean, an argument might be made for Alien 3, or Alien Cubed, but honestly, no. So like, I'm just, even if, again, even if there's good, even if they're both good, that's still only two drops in the bucket. No, I mean, Hollywood and like filmmakers just don't have heart anymore. They don't cast for for again, because they're putting their heart into it, and they're I don't see anything in the future worth waiting for. I mean, I have a dim hope for James Gunn's Superman legacy, but as I said, I just have a dim hope on that. And that's only because James Gunn is a filmmaker. He is somebody who does put his heart into it. But I mean, again, that's still just one movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until he's told not to, though.
Yeah, exactly. For me, I think Alien Romulus. It comes out on Thursday, so we'll get to see it right away. I agree with your aspect of bringing the horror back to it, but I'm not sure about the overall story. So I'm waiting to see of that. I'm skeptical. I'm a little bit in between both of y'all because I think it has elements to where it could be good because it's going back to the horror. And I agree, Rod. I don't think there's been a good Aliens movie since Aliens. I hated Alien 3. Especially because they killed off Newt and Hicks
off screen,
which just bothered the crap out of me. And then I didn't like Alien 4 and the Alien Predator and all this other stuff. It's gotten too wacko and weird.
Yeah,
so
silly.
they've gotten the potential to bring it back because it's supposed to be set in the universe in between Alien and Aliens, but I'm still skeptical. So I call me skeptical. Let's talk about Beetlejuice. I've seen all the trailers for Beetlejuice, but what makes you, Tony, think that that's gonna be good? Rod, thoughts on Beetlejuice? Both of you guys.
The first thing that I have to say about Beetlejuice is they rebuilt that entire set.
Mm-hmm.
They rebuilt that entire set almost to the nail on the drawbridge on the covered bridge. They recasted as many people as they could to reprise their roles. And Beetlejuice is once again shown as somebody who is conniving to escape the rules that were set forth by being dead. You clearly see that. You clearly see that he's got all these shrunken head guys, and they're all named Bob. I thought that was funny. You know, he's cooking up something, and it's took him 30 years, which again, for somebody like a Ghost in the established lore of that universe, where you could just disappear and be gone for 3 months in what was normal, what you would perceive as 10 minutes. It's just I'm putting my chips on it. I think that despite Jenna Ortega being probably going to be playing the bland normie girl, which is what a lot of these resurrected like spooky movies, the problem is that they have with it, like with case in point with Hocus Pocus 2. Sandersons were fantastic, but the kids that they tried to shoehorn in were bland and boring and outright unengaging. I have a bad feeling they're going to make Jenna Ortega's character that kind of character. Even Lydia, as morose as she was in the first film, and as depressed as she was in the first film, still had a character depth to her. I have a feeling that's not going to be the case in this one. That's my only concern. Other than that, I think Michael Keaton's going to do great because Michael Keaton is Beetlejuice. I think that Winona Ryder's going to do great because Winona Ryder's Lydia. It's just the aesthetics. The aesthetics are going to be the forefront of the film.
Yeah. Rod, thoughts on Beetlejuice?
Oh, easily, Keaton. Well, Keaton's going to bring it. It's going to be a good movie. It's going to sell out. It's easily going to be a success. And Jenna Ortega is actually a perfect addition to it. I mean, she's already proven herself on, as Wednesday. So, I admire her too, even being able to speak up a little too, and also because I know we've come into this culture or come into this where we're like, we don't want to hear it. Ultimately, like Tom on Midnight Edge, they said, we don't want to hear what you have to say. Dean Cain with his preachy stuff, and all that, and like Mark Ruffalo, with his social justice stuff. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Dark Waters. It's really compelling. Living in Canada here, I don't know if anybody even heard. You may have loosely heard about this, but some seeds blew off a Monsanto dump truck, and they went into a farmer's field, and then they germinated in the guy's field, and then Monsanto successfully sued the farmer for growing their wheat illegally. They called it illegally, but so yeah, no, but then ultimately he finally won after years and years. Where Monsanto initially won, well, Monsanto / Bayer, I guess they're now called. They initially won, but then ultimately the decision finally got reversed, and then ultimately the farmer won, which, good for him. Bless his heart and bless the judge who made the ruling. But no, you get corporations involved, and it's, entertainment. It's nothing. It's empty. And as I was saying, it's soulless. There's nothing there,
Yeah.
But that's why.
It's a formula that they know they can sell and have a hit, or they know they can manipulate or use, right?
Yeah. Whereas, some of us, again, to Keaton's credit, I've always loved him as an actor, when he kind of drifted off after the 80s, sort of went a little aimless and everything like that. He still popped up here and there, I think he should have gotten an Oscar for Multiplicity, playing 4 different roles on the same screen, completely different personalities, yet they're still linked somewhat, I was just, to this day, it still remains one of my favorite comedies.
Yeah, and he did that movie, the Birdman, which I thought was interesting. I've got a mixed bag about Beetlejuice. I love the original, but I don't know where the story's going. I Granted, Jeffrey Rush is not in it, which is fine. I understand why you can't have him and call it that character. What happens to the Dietzes? Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin's character. Not that I need to see Alec Baldwin in a movie, but I love Gina Davis and thought she was great in Beetlejuice. So I would love to see cameos with them, or at least tell me what happened to them, which would be an important aspect of that. But the other thing about it that I had the question about is the cartoon Beetlejuice canon, which apparently it's probably not in this movie. So I don't know if you guys have heard or what.
No, I don't think they're going to reference. I think they're going to have like Easter eggs, kind of like how Ghostbusters Ghostbusters Frozen Empire did.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's going to be overarching canon because, to bring in the animated series, you would have to bring in like Jacques and Tex and all those guys and have all those side characters. I feel like we might see like a skeleton in a gym somewhere working out, and there's Jacques, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like that would be too much work.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I'll see it, but I'm skeptical, cautiously optimistic, but a little bit skeptical about both those movies. So here's the other question I want to throw out there. What would you do? What IP would you introduce? What IP would you change? What would you want to do if you had complete control, could make your own movie, could do your own story? What would you bring to the silver screen today?
My book.
Your book? Oh,
yeah.
Hey, tell me more about your book. I'm not familiar with your book.
Oh, okay. Well, give me a second.
Yeah, man, I want to see.
Give me a second. I'll go grab it. It's on the shelf over here. I don't know. Rattle away for 20 seconds.
Cool. Tony, do you have one?
It's hard to think of one. I guess if I had to be put on the spotlight, I'd like to do another continuation of Transformers 1986.
Oh, yeah.
The Unicron's Revenge.
Yeah, something like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So your book, Rod. Oh, wow. Oh, sweet. See Through Love. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Soft cover, hard cover.
Oh, sweet.
It's real.
That's awesome.
I got one.
You'll get that.
Yeah.
Very cool. That'd be awesome to adapt it into a screenplay and bring it out. Very cool.
I'd love to. I'll read the back off for you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Every woman has experienced a moment where they wish they could just disappear. High school teacher Carolina Dominguez has the unique ability to turn invisible at will. While she usually has control over her supernatural ability, Carolina becomes invisible every time she is attracted to a man. When Carolina finds herself infatuated with the hot new gym teacher, Julian Marshall, she's shocked to discover Julian is blind, but he can see her. Once Julian's secret past resurfaces, Carolina and Julian find their relationship entangled in lust, supernatural powers, and government intrigue.
Oh, wow. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a new IP, and like Mexican Iron Man has read it, and he loves it. He said he would like to do whatever he could to try and help me bring it to the big screen, actually.
That would be really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably develop that easily into a screenplay.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, holy moly. Yeah. Wow. That'd be awesome.
It's a romance, martial arts, science fiction, comedy, drama, and spy thriller. That's that's 6 different genres. I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to try to, but it just happened organically, and I'm just kind of like, oh wow, hey, I can introduce this, and like I practice martial arts, qigong meditation actually, specifically, which what taekwondo and karate is, with the you would call it an external martial art.
Oh.
Qigong and Qui-Gon meditation is what you would call an internal martial arts. You know, it's a martial arts of the mind, and that's where I find that way more powerful than just just external like punching and kicking.
Very cool.
And yeah, and that's why. And like, to be honest, actually, I mean, like, I think Stan Lee must have heard a little bit about this, because like that's where, I mean, because it's not wrong in like your mind does kind of have an internal radar sense for things if you learn how to tune into it. It does have it. Like your body has an aura that you can feel things. Everything has an energy. Everything has a frequency that you can feel. And if you learn how to tune into it, well, and that's why, I mean, Julian, if he's lost his vision, but he's not unlike Daredevil in that he can, he has a radar sense. He can feel stuff around him.
Mm-hmm.
And
cool.
and then like Carolina Dominguez, her mother actually had a herbal remedy that can that will turn women invisible, just women. And then she was groomed when she was in her teens, and then her mother, as she came home after it happened, and like her mother knew instantly what had happened, and like she and then she gave her the remedy and just said, you can go after those bastards, and she did. And then when her father learned what had happened too, because her father is Brazilian, or her mother is Colombian, her father actually he's a capoeira maestre, which is that's a Brazilian martial art, and so he teaches her capoeira, and so not only can she turn invisible, but she can also kick your ass using Brazilian capoeira.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would like to see some original IP up there, mine included.
That would be really, really cool. All right, Tony, you started to mention yours. What would you do with Transformers?
Unicron is a representation of evil in reality. As long as there is evil within the world, Unicron will always return. That's Cybertronian lore 101. I'd like to see Unicron return. And I'd like to see him actually do some severe damage to not just Cybertron, but the Earth. And have a moment where the Autobots and the Decepticons have to go, okay, we need to stop him, and we have to work together.
That's cool.
That's what I want to see.
And you wouldn't have anybody stealing Metroplex or Trypticon's eyes in order to rebuild the Unicron, right?
No. No.
For those of you that don't know, there was a reference to a Transformers Episode 3 cartoon where Starscream was doing that. All right, so my IP. I've got ideas for Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man, Voltron, a little bit of Mask.
We've heard your He-Man. It was good.
My He-Man is interesting. My He-Man is probably the most developed. So He-Man would be kind of the origin of Skeletor and He-Man. It would take a little bit from the 2011 comics and would be about Adam actually finding the sword. And there are 3 swords, and it goes back into the original He-Man where they had the 2 power swords, the open Castle Grayskull, and there are 3 swords. King Grayskull originally had this big sword that he had made into 3 swords because it was way too powerful and it was corrupting him. The Sword of Magic, the Sword of Power, and the Sword of Honor. And basically what happened is King Grayskull said when he died, he would separate them, and he had them separated into three elements: the earth, the water, and the sky. And the sorceress holds one of them. One of them's in the water, one of them's in the earth. And basically he said that a hero would someday rise to kind of take his place. And basically Skeletor, in order to keep his life, because he had the acid thing, has to get into Grayskull and open up the portal to bring Hordak back from Despondos. And so, in order to get into Grayskull,
yeah.
to find one of the swords, and he is actually an heir of Grayskull. So Skeletor finds the sword of magic, which, if you know Skeletor's character, he has the purple sword that you would originally combine with He-Man's sword, and supposedly that was a play factor where you were supposed to use it to open up Grayskull. And Adam finds the power sword in the water, and then the sorceress has the sword of honor, which is the crystal one, which She-Ra uses. And there's all three of the swords. And so the first movie would be about Skeletor trying to get into Grayskull to get this jewel to release Hordak, and them stopping him from getting into Grayskull and stopping him from releasing Hordak. The second movie would be Hordak sending somebody through part of the portal because the crystal was broken, and Hordak returning, and then Aurora discovering she's She-Ra. And then the third movie would be the release of the Snake Man, and there's a small part with King Hiss and Evil Lyn, just like some of the story from 2011. So it's expanding on that lore. So that would be my He-Man trilogy that I would bring to the big screen.
You mean you're not going to have He-Man die? And you're not going to have Teela take over? And you're not going to make Evil Lyn more big and buff than He-Man ever was? Oh, what is wrong with you, dude?
The whole thing, Evil Lyn has an interesting character arc because Evil Lyn in the second one would take Skeletor to her father, where he actually gets the staff, which he needs a magical weapon to face up against He-Man and Hordak. And then in the third one, she betrays Skeletor by releasing the Snake Man. So that would be her arc, which is much better than what they've got in that cartoon stuff. But anyway, that would be my idea for that. I mean, like, I had Castle Grayskull, and we had Snake Mountain, and we had a whole bunch of those figures. So we've had playability. I mean, they'd be even better than the cheesy 1987 movie. So with Courtney Cox and Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah.
So
as cheesy as it was,
yeah,
it was fun.
I mean, I've got ideas on Voltron, all kinds of other stuff, but maybe I should write them down and send them to Hollywood. I don't know. So
I don't like Orcos. Gwildor was an upgrade for me.
Really, they're both okay. I thought it was interesting in the most recent cartoon where they met and they kind of fought each other a little bit. But it's interesting. But anyway, so anything else, modern pop culture, yesterday pop culture that you guys want to talk about or bring up? Any questions in the chat?
Well, Richard Spake in the chat says, for me, given the power to make any 3 films without interference, sequel to Tron Legacy, sequel to The Last Starfighter, oh my God, yes, and Myth Adventures book series by R. Asper.
Oh, wow. Hang on one sec.
Uh-oh, he's pulling out the portal gun, guys. Go and pull out. He's going to pull it out. Gonna rip something from off the screen.
I had something off screen too. I just didn't get back.
Yeah,
It's a little further away.
So there's Superman 2, both the Donner and the regular cut on 4K.
Yep, I got that on my. I got that on the Blu-ray collection that has. My Blu-ray collection actually has the almost an hour of deleted scenes from Superman 4.
Oh, wow.
And-
Interesting.
Yeah. There was actually a subplot where, like, they actually Meteor Man was actually the second Meteor Man. There was actually a first one, and the first one Superman defeated easily. Also because he was just very dim. He was very much like Bizarro Superman.
Yeah. Yep.
And Superman basically just outwitted him, and then basically destroyed him, literally. And so then Lex Luthor, wow, I've got to come up with something better, and then then he gave him a lot more of his own brains. So that's how Meteor Man was developed, and there's a couple extra subplots to sort of flesh it out too, but they just didn't have the budget, so ultimately they just cut it down and just made it into like the 90-minute Superman 4.
Yeah.
So
Which
I'd
wasn't,
like to see Doomsday done right on a big screen.
yeah.
yeah,
That was cool. But you mentioned Last Starfighter, and you mentioned what else? Last Starfighter, and then Tron Legacy. So Tron, I love the original Tron.
yeah,
Great movie, great video game. The sequel that came out was interesting. I don't know. Clue being the enemy was interesting, a different development to it. The real key to that was the very end where you have Flynn lives with Ram and Flynn, or Ram and Ram and Tron in real life, and then the other aspect is you have the Dillinger kids and the end of line with the MCP. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on another Tron movie? Where would you go with that? What would you do with it?
Tron having an updating itself to the cloud, and maybe a return of a new MCP, perhaps.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. That would be an interesting way to look at it. You know, it'd be like an eternal Skynet story, a race against time to stop the entire network over the world from becoming a universe for a new MCP to play with.
Yeah. Be interesting. Maybe have an MCP that reconquers or is trying to reconquer the cyber world as well.
Yeah. 1 megabyte in size. How terrifying that word was back in the day. The MCP was 1 megabyte.
Yep. All right. How would you do a sequel to The Last Starfighter, which I love The Last Starfighter. Great movie.
Last Starfighter? That's tough.
Yeah, I the thing about it is it ended with the bad guy getting away,
Yeah.
and you kind of finding out that he's related to one of the leaders of the heroes side. But I don't know. Yeah, Earth to the Star League.
Introduce Earth to the Star League.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know. I mean, I think a sequel to that movie probably needed to come out in the 90s.
Yeah.
If you were going to do it. But I don't know. If you did it right, where you reintroduce the video game and you're having to bring somebody else from Earth, kind of like the first one, back into Star League, and you bring back some of the original characters. So that'd be interesting. Somebody said about a Kingdom Come Superman movie. Yeah, that could be interesting. I don't know. The thing about if they're going to do another Superman movie, I don't think you need to do another origin story. I think you need to go with the established character.
Yeah.
Richard Spake says having the Earth being introduced to the Star League with the bad guy from the first showing up with an alliance to cause problems with Earth entering the league. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. But it's fascinating. It's interesting what they would do. So cool. All right. Yeah. Everyone knows the origin of Superman. That's why, I get tired of the Batman movies and the
pearls. No more pearls, for the love of God, please.
Yeah. So.
Closing ceremonies. And for Canada, it's certainly been the Summer Games for the record.
So,
Rod, you got your TV on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just kind of news in the background, and the Canadian team just won the World Gretzky Cup for the third year in a row. We beat the United States 2-0.
Oh wow.
Very good.
Yeah. Anyway, I liked Tron because I mean this is two movies. It's got the original and the newest.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And this is one of my last buys from Blockbuster before they closed. And this had just come out. Yeah, and this had just come out too, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I actually Thrawn, I can actually see them developing AI. I would think either AI or just simply the MCP gains more sentience, like like a growing, thriving, growing, spawning AI, and then Tony had a good thing, like uploading into the cloud, and then suddenly going from place to place to place, and then suddenly just
turning the real world into his game.
I'll take you one better. The MCP is able to develop a digital self character that's real but not real in our world.
Yeah, perfect.
And he corrupts computers and technology in our world to make it
grow
more
himself. Yeah. You can just see him like walking through the doors disguised as an employee at like some big tech company and just
so he's
uploading into it. Yeah.
Yeah, or something, a hive mind, one of mine, many bodies. Richard Spank brought up Lex Luthor. I think Kevin Spacey did a good Lex, but I don't think it was a good movie. But I don't know. Gene Hackman's always been my Lex Luthor, but he's way too old to play him now. So
Gene Hackman is Lex Luthor, though. Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I'm sorry, guys. I was a fan of Smallville. I thought now it had a lot of cheats, and I liked it. And I thought Michael Rosenbaum did a good job as Lex. So.
As far as character representation was concerned, I think everybody did okay. I don't like the concept of Lex and Clark being friends.
Yeah, I didn't like that aspect.
And that turned me off from it. It's like, wait a minute, why are they? No, just no.
Well, they became enemies not that long into it.
I don't know. I kind of thought it was good because see, the other thing too is like because it makes sense because like this would also explain why Lex Luthor is so focused on Superman. You know what I mean? Because the opposite of love is not hate; it's indifference. So like if he hates him, it's really more because he's just kind of like he's angry at Clark because he sees where Clark could be. And the same thing with Clark, Superman. He's angry at Lex because he sees where he could be. But then of course at the very end of the game, the very end of the series, I meant to say, the very end of the series, they pulled a Deus Machina where he just suddenly like his mind is blanked and then suddenly he forgets everything that happened. He just kind of like, oh, okay, I'm the leader of the world, and and there's this superhuman being opposing me. All right, we're fighting. Kind of thing. It's just kind of like, they just kind of sort of did everything to kind of jigger everything to kind of turn Smallville into just regular comic Superman, and it just kind of like, it didn't quite work for me.
Yeah, Lionel Luthor was kind of interesting in that show, though.
That's what I liked. I really liked that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So
because, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, go for it. Yeah, he was interesting.
Oh, okay. No, see, it makes sense too. In like, you see how evil Lionel Luthor is, and then like, and then Lex is not stupid. He's like, I don't want to become that, But at the same time, he's just kind of like, I want to be my own man, but I don't want to sit there and, I mean, and I liked how in the early seasons, there's Luthor Corps, and then in season 3, Lex takes over the local the local plant for what was it? It's for fertilizer plant. He develops a local fertilizer plant, and then like he calls it LexCorp as a kind of as a ding against Luthor Corps. Like it just that whole father son dynamic where like evil father and then son doesn't want to be evil like dad. So he tries to counteract his dad being like that. So that I thought that was a great dynamic adding toward that. And then of course him being partial friends with Clark here and there. Which again it made sense. I mean, because like it definitely would explain, it expands on and it explains why Lex is so focused and so obsessed with Superman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this is what I gotta say. I remember my Lex being the guy who snipped the brake line to his parents' car just to get the insurance money to found LexCorp.
Mhm.
He's always been a narcissistic scumbag.
Hmm.
And he, like that, the element, the dichotomy between Superman and Lex Luthor is Superman has the abilities of basically a god.
Mhm.
And he is trying to learn what it means to be human, to have compassion, to care about people. He's the big blue Boy Scout. But then
Mhm.
Lex represents everything that is ugly about humanity: greed, ambition, conquest. The dark shadow that we cast, the brighter our light becomes, the greater our shadow is cast. And when these two foil each other, when these two, it's a tale as old as time. It's okay. Humanity does deserve to be saved, but at what cost? Whenever anybody could become the next Lex Luthor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Lex was
By the way, and I
Superman's
just-
shadow. Yeah.
And by the way, I just wanted to point out too that this is the special edition in that I meant to expand on it. There's two versions on this. One is the Donner cut, which Donner himself considers to be basically the definitive version of Superman. But the top version is actually that is the 3-hour cut. There was actually extra footage that they didn't use in the movie, but when they put Superman on television, what they did was they filled it out because they wanted to make it a two night event. So for anybody who's even familiar with television, an hour and a half can be fleshed out to 2 hours. Like i.e. when you put in the commercials. So they they fleshed the original movie out to like 3 hours with extra footage. For example, there is a part where Lex is dealing with some natives, some indigenous folk down in the valley, buying up parts of their land, and some indigenous were happy with it, others weren't, which again, an interesting little side plot there. And all this other extra footage, which again, this is again, as the back says, decades before blockbuster extended cuts were common, Superman proved a true man of tomorrow because Superman the movie received an ahead of its time makeover for its television premiere, nearly 40 minutes of extra story, creating a 2-night of television event.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
There's more stuff with Jor-El too, as well, with his training and with him going back to the Fortress of Solitude. And
that's right. Yeah.
So yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Actually, the movie this week that I'm reviewing is Superman. The first one. So yeah, some of those big facts I'm already gathering and watching. So yeah, very cool. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Well, guys, I've been going for almost 3 hours. It's the great
okay.
I think we've kind of reached kind of almost a stopping point, but I want to let you guys plug away before we go. Tony, do you have anything you want to plug?
I remember the days whenever I considered 3 hours on the air tiresome. No, great stream, for real. I'm happy to have been here for most of it. What have I got coming up? Well, lots of stuff. Seeing as I'm doubling down my efforts to have my YouTube channel become something viable, and with the outcry of support that I got just in the last 48 hours, it's giving me the confidence to really push it. I'm going to have more views. I'm going to have more science and sci-fi stuff, more breaking news segments. Raising Timmy's coming out the gate. It isn't just going to be live streams anymore. I'm taking the tentative step to becoming, I guess, unlike my Mexican cousin, a YouTuber. And so, I'm going to be available for a lot more shows. I sent an email to DC saying that in any instance that he would need me on a Wednesday, starting with the 14th, I'm available, at least for right now. I'm going to pad this out as much as I can to really grow the channel and to really take those steps into becoming something more than just another guy on the internet, while always having that attitude of being another guy on the internet. Because even if I do get successful, which is like a 0.000000001 chance, I never forget the people that helped me along the way. And I want, and Robert has just hit the 1K mark too. We're growing together. Speaking of PJ, tell him howdy. Absolutely. Lots of things coming up. I'm going to be on with Beard of Liberty talking about The Abyss tomorrow over on his channel. I'm going to be on Pop Culture Breakdown. I'm going to try and be on Manorama, not this coming Tuesday, but next. And I'm just going to see what kind of shenanigans I can get into along the way. And again, thank you guys for subscribing to my good friend Robert. It was really awesome meeting him in Knoxville. It was really awesome meeting him, Gary, and Nick from Echo Base. Really good people, and that's what this community is about: people and sharing our passions and what we love. And we appreciate each and every one of you in the chat. You are the lifeblood of this very endeavor. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. And Rod, what would you like to plug?
Well, I just dropped my book. I just dropped my book link on you can actually buy it on Amazon. But it's actually more. I mean, you can actually buy it on anything online, any bookstore that's online. You can input See Through Love, Rod Thunderheart, author, and it'll probably come up. But I mean, you'll be paying extra charges because you'll be buying it from another store and everything like that. Whereas if you just buy it straight from Friesen Press, it's a lot cheaper. I mean, I believe soft cover is $30 Canadian, and a hardcover is $35-40 American, $35-40 Canadian as well. Which makes it cheaper for America. And also you can also buy it ebook form. Any e-reader, it's available. Kobo, Amazon, Kindle, you name it. So and I've also put my Patreon on there, and I'm getting a lot more active on my Patreon. Partly because I have a lot more free time. I put 50
Isn't that a neat feeling?
last week. It is and it isn't. It's kind of scary.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is and it isn't,
because
it's
regular
kinda
chat
scary.
too. I show you put them in the private, but put them in the regular chat so you guys can buy and do that. I'm definitely going to get a copy of that book. Can't wait to read it. Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, just to give you an idea, my banker, bank manager, she bought a copy, and then, like, I don't want to spoil. I mean, it's loosely spoiled, and you kind of figure that he might be a spy, and okay, he is. But I'm just going to say there's something major that happens in a major event that happens in the comic in the story, and when it happened, she was so angry because she thought, okay, this person is dead, and then I was like, what? No. And she was so angry. She put the book down. She was like, I don't want to read it. The rest of it. No. She was so mad. But then after like about 30 minutes, it just kind of tortured her, and she's like, I got to read more. So then she read further, and she's like, oh, and then whatever happened didn't happen, and then didn't quite happen the way it's, and she's like, okay, this person is not dead, and then she's like, oh my God, it's like, how would you think that? I mean, like, come on, like just a few pages further on, and then you're like, oh, okay, Phew. All right, you know, that person's not dead, you know, and like, okay, that might be a bit of a spoiler, sorry, but you know, and like it was, but like I really liked the fact that she got so invested in the game in the story that she was just so angry she put the book down, you know, and then you know, but then once she invested a little more of her time, then she's like, okay, and then the story goes a lot further and a lot deeper. Okay, you know, and like I was proud of that, you know.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. Yeah, thank you for sharing
Thanks.
your book. If you want to share it in the regular chat, you can too. I show you shared it in the private chat. Are you able to share it on the regular?
No, here I'll try in the regular chat, but I'm not sure if it'll go up. I hope it does, but
Yeah. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, wrenches are the ones that can post links.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Give it to the wrenches. Wrenches will have to take it.
Well, there's no wrench, so this
Yeah,
should
this-
be right there, but not monetized.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Damn. All right.
Okay.
You can adopt wrenches without being monetized.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Canadian Spider-Man has a bunch.
Heck, I'm one of them.
There we go. And then let me do your Patreon too.
Yeah, right on. Thanks.
Stevenson, Deputy Fire Chief, was one of the first.
Yeah, on my Patreon, I'm a digital artist, so I can. This actually all spawned from just simply from my fascination with invisible women, and then a friend of mine taught me something on a free photo manipulation site app, whatever, called GIMP. You know, and then I actually got really good on GIMP, and you know, if you can look at my art for free on Patreon, although the saucier ones are on the higher pay schedule, pay tiers. But yeah, no, like, and then like my my highest tier on Patreon, you will get eventually you'll get a copy of See Through Love, and this T-shirt.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, T-shirt. You know, I haven't quite gotten deep enough into it to decide if people are hungry for tank tops. So, but yeah, white or black. You know, the man, the legend.
Absolutely. Very cool.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Very cool.
it's been a pleasure, and thank you for allowing me to plug my stuff. And you know, I love your channel. I'm gonna, you know, and I'm part of it now. So
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. And this week we're doing Superman the movie from 1978. Great movie. Love this movie. I'll tell you why I love it. And you got Rod showing it. And then don't forget to join us next week, next Sunday, about 6:30. We will go over the top 40 of 1986. It's a great top 40, and we'll have a panel that discusses that next week on this channel. Thank you so much to all my subscribers. I'm just so blessed to have 1,000 of you guys. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Take care, everybody, and God bless. We'll see you guys.
thanks, guys. Have a good one. Yep.
Woo!
Still check out.